Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Mr. Clerk, could you possibly do a roll call, please?
Mayor Wood.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Feller.
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
Councilmember Kern.
Here.
Councilmember Feline.
Thank you. With that, I'll go ahead with the consent calendar 4 through 15. Have you got any from the public to pull or the council?
Move approval.
I'm going to pull item number 8.
Move approval for balance.
There's a motion to approve the balance.
I'll second.
Thank you. With that, please vote.
I only show one vote passed so far.
Do we need to vote again? Or?
Okay, thank you. Motion approved. I vote.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Mr. Clerk, item number 8, please. Use your mic.
You turn the mic on.
Approval of 5 purchase orders in the amount not to exceed $92,905 to Portland Equipment Valley Center for one Sherrington Beach Cleaner, for one Ford F-550 aerial truck in an amount not to exceed $255,000, for one paint striper truck in an amount not to exceed $39,755, and for one Ford F-250 service truck not to exceed, and an amount not to exceed $783,000 for Marco Equipment Company to refurbish 4 Temco street sweepers for Public Works Department, and authorization for the Finance Services Director or designee to execute the purchase orders.
Thank you very much. With that, Councilman Kern, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The thing I'm going to try to get through this quick as possible. I want to kind of bifurcate this in a certain way. I'm going to talk to the street sweeper issue. The rest of them I'm going to move approval on. So if I can bifurcate that, move approval on the beach maintenance, the beach cleaner, and the service trucks and the striping things. I'll move approval for those, and then I wanted to talk about the street sweepers.
Second.
Thank you. And you want to vote on those?
We'll vote on that one, then we'll come back to street
And
sweepers.
this is the remainder except for the street sweeper item. So this is for separation, and please vote.
Motion approved. I vote.
Thank you very much. Councilman Kern, please.
All right, thank you. A couple things. One, to spend $783,000, and we don't really have much of a staff report on how we got to that number, and so that to me is an awful lot of money for the information that we received. And the other thing is the idea that this is something that we don't have to do. I mean, the idea that I'm going to make the recommendation that we deny the staff recommendation on this item, request that staff return to the council as soon as possible with the privatization proposal for street sweeping. Here's $783,000, actual hard money that we can save today by denying this and going out and actually contracting out for this service, and let the private contractor spend the $783,000 or to buy the street sweeper. That's the one thing that it wasn't included when we had the consideration for outsourcing street sweeping, was this $783,000. I think if the council at that time knew that there's a $783,000 hit coming on the street sweeper, that we would have a different decision. So that would be my proposal. Hopefully I can get a second on that, and then we can discuss it.
Do we have a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Thank you. And with that, Councilmember Feline, you're up, please.
Yeah, well, I'd certainly like to follow up on that because that's my concern as well. I guess my first question to make sure we're correct here is to the city manager, was this $783,000 factored into the figures we were given as part of the outsourcing bid?
Mayor and council members, a portion of the $783,000 was included, and that portion is the annual cost that we set aside to replace the vehicles and equipment. So we amortize the cost of the vehicles and equipment over their life cycle, and those dollars were included in the evaluation of the outsourced proposal versus city proposal.
Now, had we accepted that outsourcing bid, who would have been responsible for providing and maintaining the street sweepers?
The private contractor. And his amortized cost for those vehicles was included in his proposal.
But that was the bid that, with that amortization, as I roughly recall, saved $1 million over, was it 4 years? And now on top of that, I mean, we wouldn't be purchasing $783,000 worth of street sweepers or repairing them, if we had accepted that bid and it was his responsibility, correct?
That's correct. If you would have gone with the outsourced proposal, then the money that was allocated and set aside for the replacement of those sweepers would have gone back to the solid waste fund.
Okay, so in effect, the real lost opportunity of not accepting the outsourcing bid has now soared from the original $1 million to $1,783,000, correct?
The savings, and I don't remember the annual savings, Mr. Coger may be able to address that.
The annual savings was about $118,000 per year for the contractor to do it versus city staff. We did compare apples to apples. That was about 3 months ago when we brought that item before you, and we had our replacement, our annual replacement costs and annual maintenance and operation costs, which is fuel and taking care of the vehicles. So everything was put in there. So your true savings, if you were to outsource, would be $118,000 a year.
Okay, how long is this, so this, and you're telling me this $783,000 expense was factored into the original bid?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then in this case, how come, I mean, how many years is this amortized over, and how long would these vehicles last?
8 to 10 years.
So then at $118,000 per year, that's, you're saying the outsourcing savings is roughly due then to this amount? Because that's roughly what it seems to come to.
Yeah, I'm saying it's $118,000 for the first year, and then it was different every year after that, but that's basically what it was every year.
Okay, now, so I guess I'm still kind of confused here, because it seems to me we're putting out now $783,000 in cash, and how is it that the outsourcing bid originally then would have only saved $118,000? I mean, I can pull out my calculator here real quick, but you know, using roughly 7 years over which we're saying these vehicles are amortized, that's basically $100,000 per year plus a little extra. So what was, I mean, there were no savings in terms of pensions, no savings in terms of wages?
Everything factored in, you know, labor, equipment, materials, supplies, comparing contractor costs versus city staff costs, the annual savings was $118,000. The way to look at this is, let's say you're going to buy 4 new sweepers today, and then you have to maintain them over the next 10 years, but you don't have to buy any more for 10 years. Mm-hmm. So let's say we spend $800,000 today and buy 4 new sweepers, and then we put, you know, $20,000 per sweeper away every year. So in 10 years, we'll have the money to spend it again. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying, all things considered, the actual savings would have been $118,000, and that includes everything. That's labor, equipment, supplies, materials.
Well, I guess I would be more comfortable myself, I can't speak for my other colleagues, but I would at least like to postpone this and review the figures for the outsourcing again and get my arms a better understanding of exactly how these figures were factored in, and take a look at whether or not the outsourcing option truly presented the correct amount that we were likely to save, and that would allow me to get the warm and fuzzy feeling. I guess assuming that is settled and we decide to go in this direction, what is the reason we've chosen to fix the existing vehicles as opposed to, say, buying one each year over the next 4 years and then having a much longer life on new vehicles as opposed to extending the life on existing vehicles? What did you look at in terms of those options?
Well, that's one reason that we decided to look at the outsourcing when we did, because we had made a decision that if we're going to outsource, that's fine. We don't need to buy new vehicles, but we knew at that time if we're not going to outsource, we need to spend some money on these vehicles. These vehicles are 8 years old. They're becoming a maintenance problem for us. It's a very harsh environment. They're on the road 40 hours a week. We didn't have quite enough in replacement money, so that's why we decided to go a little different route and refurbish part of the vehicle and remount, get new parts and stuff for other parts of the vehicle. It has hydraulics and hoppers and electrical and fans and blowers and all this good stuff. So there's a lot of expensive parts on it. So that's why we're saying now we need to get these things rebuilt so they'll last another 8 to 10 years.
Okay, well, I would certainly like to move that this item is postponed until our first meeting in September so that we could review the figures again and see if we went in the right direction.
Well, if that's your motion, then I'll withdraw my motion and I'll second yours.
Thank you. We have a motion. Thank you. With that, Councilmember Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been available the notice has been available to the council for, 10 days, and the actual staff report has been available since Thursday. And I know Mr. Weiss, and I know we have other people at City that could have answered some of these questions. And what I'm hearing is that staff has looked into outsourcing, has compared apples to apples. This information was out there. Street sweeping is a very important function for the city. I remember times when we would get calls about how, people saying, well, our streets need to be swept more often. We have made the decision to do sweeping as often as we do. We decide as a community that we want to maintain this level of quality of service. This is being recommended by the city manager, city staff. I don't see why. To me, this sounds like micromanaging. These figures have been available. I know my colleagues have been especially looking at this for the last couple of years, or I guess 18 months. I doubt that there would be anything new that they would learn. So I'm going to be opposing the continuance, and I'm going to ask me to vote today. Thanks.
Thank you. Actually, others, if we vote on this, have a supplemental. I was going to say, Mr. Kern, you're last up, but I see no other.
Thank you. I brought this forward as a request of a couple of emails I received. I mean, the idea is, so I brought it forward because the public wanted it brought forward. We can ask questions and we get answers privately, but the public doesn't understand what's going on up here. And when we spend $783,000 on a consent item with a 3-page staff report, people want to know what's going on. So I'm here to represent the taxpayers and represent the public. So that's why I brought this forward. I know some people want to keep things secretly and private, and we make these decisions. So I'm trying to get the public to understand what this money means and where it comes from. So with that, I will vote on Mr. Feline's motion, then we'll see where it goes. But that's why I'm concerned.
Thank you. Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sounds like we're campaigning off the dais here. I want to make sure that everyone understands. I get a lot of calls from the public and the community. I'm out in the community, and I do feel that I represent our taxpayers, our homeowners, and our small businesses who really ask for these kind of things. Street sweeper. Very important. Street sweeping. It is so important, and I do not. Everything that people ask for, I look, I ask, I discuss with the city staff. So I'm not going to say that any one of us does not represent the community in the way they think they do. Everyone here, I believe, thinks they represent the community at the same level. So I just, let's not do the campaigning on the dais. I think that let's just, respect each other. Hopefully it's not going to be a long meeting, and let's just vote on this. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Kern, back to you again.
Well, it's my item. I get to close on it. So the idea that
There's other speakers after you, sir.
there's other speakers.
Well, let
let the
it
other
up
speakers.
again.
No, I just want to close. So
You'll get to close, yes, sir.
I'll let the other speakers speak.
Councilmember Flynn, please.
Yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable of Councilman Kern or myself to want to double check if this is the best way to go. I'll ask. Are these street sweepers going to fall apart in the next 21 days?
No, sir, but they are in pretty bad shape, and I'd like to make a decision pretty quick.
Okay, well, I think based on what our long-term challenges are, and this is just one part of the overall challenge we need to face, and I certainly, too, don't see my responsibility as micromanaging, everyday decisions of the city staff. But the issue of how we're going to approach how we provide city services is a policy decision that's well worthy of the council providing direction to the city manager and the city staff. We had a vote regarding a very important policy decision a little bit ago. This seems to provide some evidence we may have gone in the wrong direction. We may come back at the first meeting and say, as a council, let's move ahead. I don't see that there's any damage taking a second look, going back through the numbers, making sure we're comfortable both for ourselves and for the public who expect us to watch, diligently over every tax dollar. To me, my motion represents maybe upside opportunity with no downside risk. There's nothing whatsoever that prevents us from moving ahead with this motion. On the other hand, this is my field of work too, going through the math and crunching the numbers. And, something here suggests to me that, maybe we're looking at it differently, and maybe I would have an approach that's different, and I'd like a little time to go back through that and see if my concern is justified or whether or not I come back and say, yep, I agree with the approach and the numbers that are presented. So I don't think a small delay puts the city in any jeopardy. Thank you.
Councilmember Kern.
Okay, hopefully we'll try to close one more time then. So I totally agree with Councilmember Flynn. The idea that $783,000 is a very significant amount of money to me. It may not be to anybody else on this dais, but that's tax dollars that we're looking at. And I think taking our time and approaching this in a manner that really reassures the public that we are looking after the dollars that they give to us to shepherd, that we're good stewards of those tax dollars. I don't know how we came up to $783,000, so that's one thing I'd like, either an RFP process or a bid process or something like that. I'd like to know that, and I think the public would like to know that. And I think that's why we have public meetings, so the public gets informed on how and why we spend money the way that we do. So I would hope in the interim, hopefully this will pass. But even if it doesn't pass, I'm requesting a staff to at least come back and tell me how we got to $783,000. You know, the RFP, a bid, you know, how many bidders, how many people came forward to do these things. I know a lot of diesel engines have a lot of problems because of new laws, you know, particulate filters and the off-road rules now. I know that's been a big deal with a lot of contractors and people that work for Caltrans, people on Sandag projects. That was a big deal. So that's what I really want to know. I think we need to tell the public how we came up with this $783,000. And to me, it's $783,000 we don't really need to spend if we can contract out this service. So hopefully we can support Councilmember Feline's motion and bring this back and actually take a real hard look at it. So thank you.
Please vote on this phase. Excuse me. I'm sorry, if I may, real quick. This, even I made a mistake. This is about the motion to continue. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. Please.
Motion approved, 3-2. Kern Feller, Wood and Sanchez, no.
Excuse me. Okay, I'm sorry. Could you flash it up here, please?
The public, no, that's right.
Let's try that again.
You want to vote again?
Is that what you asked for?
Yeah.
Jack left the dais. I don't know.
No, we can wait a moment.
Jack had voted yes on that, but I don't know, can we do that that way?
Report it out. Next time.
Report it out. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll let you on this one.
Thank you very much. We'll go from that one. That was item 8, and thank you very much. 3-2 vote. With that, Mr. Clerk, could we move on to 16, please?
Item 16. We had some last-minute requests come in. Just a moment, please. Item 16, approval of a disposition and development agreement with National Community Renaissance and Community Housing Works for the Mission Cove Affordable Housing Project located along the 3200 block of Mission Avenue, and authorization for the city manager to execute the agreement.
Thank you very much. Dave, good evening. How are you?
Pretty good, Mayor, and City Council members, and Mr. Clerk, John, and members of the audience. Dave Manley from Neighborhood Services. The item before you tonight is staff is recommending that you approve the disposition and development agreement with National Community Renaissance and Community Housing Works for the Mission Cove project. I'll give a brief summary of where we started and where we are. Right now, as Council can recall, in December of 2010, we approved the development team, which aligned itself with the vision plan to develop 288 units on the Mission Avenue, known as Mission Cove project. In April, subsequent to that, Council also approved a reimbursement agreement to start the entitlement process, which is currently underway to bring that development forward. And then following that, Council also approved an exclusive negotiating agreement to develop the terms of a DDA, which brings us to the document tonight. I'll briefly just go over some of the terms of it. I'll be followed by the development team, and then we'll give a little update from the design team as to where the project's at currently. Over the last year, staff from Neighborhood Services and the development team have worked to develop terms. The overall project actually will be has 4 phases to it. Phase A is actual infrastructure, on and off site improvements and grading. Phase B, multifamily 80 units by National Corps. Phase C by Community Housing Works as special needs and the senior units. And then Phase D follows up with another 70 units of multifamily. The DDA spells out that although we'd like to have it all done at the same time, simultaneously, at a minimum, we would like A and B done to get sticks off the ground. We anticipate, hopefully, that more phases will be done at the same time. Structuring to this type of project, this sizable project takes is pretty intricate and takes a lot of different layers. We've set a term of 5 years for the DDA with a one-time 3-year extension. It's also be noted that until sticks actually come out of the ground, that the development team has not been paid, so they are working for free right now, but they anticipate that the project will move forward in a timely manner. One emphasis behind moving the DDA right now is that it allows the development team to apply for financing to make this project come to fruition. There's different state and federal financing that may come out in the next year, and having a DDA in hand with terms set out makes them more competitive in those processes. As a brief fiscal overview of the project's estimated development cost of about $81.3 million, not including the land. Construction of all the phases will require a city housing subsidy of about $17.4 million, and what the DDA sets is not to exceed that threshold. Hopefully they'll be able to find other resources that will be able to reduce that amount, but that sets a resource with that. So the development team is actually charged. We put in, for every dollar we put in, you have to go out and find $4 to make this project come forward. The action tonight that you're taking does not appropriate funds. That will come at a separate date when we actually have the final loan agreements for the individual phases, and we're ready to go with some of the phases. The Housing Commission heard this item on the July 24th meeting and unanimously approved it. I'd like to point out that we have Chair Kay Parker here and Commissioner Jackie Kemp also in the audience. I'd also like to point out that we've had assistance from the City Attorney's Office. Barbara Hamilton has reviewed all our documents. There's about 227 pages, including attachments, and with assistance from John Mullen as well. So with that, that would conclude staff's presentation. I'll have the development team come up and give a few words about themselves and the project, and then I'll be available for any questions.
Thank you, Dave. Have a seat sidebar with Marjorie, and we'll go forward. Good evening, everybody. There's two podiums, and of course, if you want to use the overhead, be our guest. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor.
John, how are you?
Very well. Mayor, Council, my name is John Seymour from the nonprofit National Community Renaissance. And National Core, just for your background again, was founded 20 years ago. I've been with the company 17 years. We own, operate, and manage 9,500 units in 45 different cities throughout Southern California. And during the worst recession of the Great Depression, we were able to finance, build, and now own and operate several projects. We own today the award-winning La Mission Village across the street from the subject property. We also own Cape Cod Senior Villas in the city of Oceanside. And one of the things that we're proud of in our property management is that we employ strict management procedures, including comprehensive resident screening, background checks, credit reports, crime pre-addendum. We enforce our parking rules, especially on our retail properties, and we have zero tolerance of illegal activities. I want to put a little bit more meat on the bones that was provided to you in a summary by Mr. Manley. The city bought this land in 2006 with housing funds. They issued an RFP, and you received numerous developer responses. They were apples versus oranges, densities lower, higher, retail, no retail, architecture differences. Just everything was all over the board. And what your council did was to reject all those proposals. You hired RRM Design Group. You instructed staff to go out and hold community meetings. You did at Marty's. RRM Design Group did that. I attended several. In fact, I attended all of them. And you came up with a vision plan. Then you went back out for another RFP. And numerous developers proposed. And you selected by unanimous vote National Community Renaissance and Community Housing Works. So since that time, we've submitted application. And by spring, hopefully sooner, but by spring at the latest, we will have a GPA, a zone amendment, tentative map, development plan, CUP, and tonight is the DDA in front of you tonight. We made the decision early on, Mayor and Council, to retain RRM Design Group to make sure that the consistency was there with the community, to make sure that there was a number of promises made to the community, Caroline neighborhood, about this project, and the last thing you need is a bait and switch. And so we hired RRM to make sure that there is no bait and switch, and that vision plan is what you're going to see today, with a few minor changes because of site constraints and to save project costs. So this is not our proposal. This is not our project. This is a true joint venture with the city. You guys own the dirt. You're going to ground lease it to us if this project moves forward. And as we stated, Mayor and Council, this project goes beyond just buildings. It's about what we're going to do for our residents on site, 288 units, plus 10,000 square foot of retail. This will be a very large community, and we will provide, this project will be a Silver LEED certified. It will have universal design to it. We will have early childhood education, youth development, after-school programs, anti-violence education, technology, tutoring, test preparation, and Community Housing Works is here today to explain what the programs are going to be for the seniors. The last thing before I turn it over to Mary Jane from Community Housing Works is to dispel this myth that this project is not going to come off the ground. This project is going to come off the ground. And in fact, in your report tonight, there's listing several $1 million of housing funds, either federal home funds, inclusionary housing fee funds, ERAF and SERAF payments that are due back. To get us out of the ground, the DDA states that we have to do phase A and B. There's no phase A if you don't get phase B. Well, we're here to tell you tonight that we're going to do phase A, phase B, and phase D. Okay? All of those phases will be able to come out of the ground with the first tranche of money coming in. David was right. This project is $81 million TDC, and we're responsible to bring $65 million of that between our two groups to get all 4 of those phases done. The funding sources that are listed in your packet, along with our affordable housing grant funds that we can get once we go under construction of $1.5 million, we have a surplus of funds for A, B, and D of approximately $1.3 million. If you want to talk more in depth on the numbers, we will. So, and that does not include the probability of a perm source in Sacramento, MHP funds, TOD, and IIG. It also does not include a proposal. We're not proposing this, the idea. And you recall at the Planning Commission, they had a workshop on inclusionary housing, and a developer proposed to defer not school fees, not county water authority fees, but the development impact fees. We have $2.6 million of deferred of development impact fees, which we can defer. We're not proposing that, but we could, and that would jumpstart this project even sooner. So that's not even in the numbers. What's also not in these numbers are further valuation, construction valuation. We have some floodplain issues out there that we're dealing with that we believe we can solve. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Mary Jane from Community Housing Works to talk a little about her senior project. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, Mary Jane.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. I'm Mary Jane Jagodzinski with Community Housing Works, and I first want to thank you all. The city has shown tremendous foresight in securing this land years ago. It's a great site. It's a transit-oriented site. For people that can't afford cars or don't always want to take a car, it's an excellent site. And both, I know, council, housing commission members, and staff have worked extremely hard with us in the 2 years that we've been involved. As you know, Community Housing Works is over 30 years old now. We're San Diego County based. We in Oceanside, we own Old Grove in Marisol. We also are tenacious, and in the depths of, in fact, I closed a development on October 3rd, 2008, and the headlines in the Wall Street Journal that day were "On the Edge of Abyss," and we got superior pricing and great rates because we command that. And it's not easy today, but we will find the money with this tool of a DDA. We are recognized nationally and awarded nationally for innovation in finance, design, and operations. As John indicated, our role here will be the developer, owner, and operator of the seniors development. It's about 3.5 acres, 138 apartments for seniors. We are targeting 20% for special needs seniors, of which we're trying to target about 10 for perhaps homeless veterans. And we are really outreaching, particularly to veterans. There are a number of of people that are very supportive of this, as you know. You've received a letter today from North County Veterans Association. Chuck Atkinson could not be here. Don Stump, I know, is planning to be here, and we have some residents in our audience, including some veterans from some of our developments, Maria Russell from East Side Neighborhood. There are a number of people. So I appreciate your attention tonight. I'm going to move along because I know we want to, you have a 5 o'clock public meeting starting, but I want to introduce Diane Bathgate from RRM, our architect, and she's going to show you what we've been doing, and I think you'll be really happy with the way the site plan and the elevations are developing. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mary Jane. Good evening, Mayor and council members and staff. I'm Diane Bathgate with RM Design Group, and I'm a principal planner. Did I turn this off accidentally? Yeah, CPU.
There you go.
Thank you. We have been fortunate enough to be involved in this project from fairly early on, being retained by the city to develop truly a community-based plan for this 14.5-acre site. Just to get oriented tonight, Mission Avenue fronts the property. It's about 14.5 acres. The Roymar Road intersection Mission Avenue. It's not showing up on there. Anyway, surrounded by an existing neighborhood of single-family residences, and across the street are commercial uses and hotel uses. The Vision and Strategic Plan was an effort that took a little over a year. We had 3 community workshops that truly developed the plan. We assisted with alternative site design and engaged the community and shaped the plan. And we developed design principles really emphasizing a compatible development with the existing community, sustainability, something that can be flexible and meet the needs of the citizens. This is the refined site plan as inserted into the existing land use context. Some of the revisions, refinements that have been made to the plan are based on technical studies that have been conducted over this past year and have created site efficiencies. There's more distance between the existing homes and the both in the east and the west ends of the project. Formerly, we had a 3-story building located on the eastern side of the project that would accommodate apartment homes. Now it will be a family resource center that is 1 story. Previously, in the vision plan, we had 2- and 3-story homes along the southern part of the property. Now it's only 2 stories, and they're also situated farther back from the existing residences. The senior and special needs component of the project has also been refined to be more centrally located in the site to provide for a more integrated multi-generational neighborhood, and that's one of the goals of the plan, is really to truly create an authentic neighborhood. Some of the principles in the plan also to provide for views between buildings through the site to create an openness has been retained. Pedestrian circulation throughout the site has been retained. The primary access at Roymar Road has been retained. Additional open space has been provided at the eastern and western ends of the property that serves the dual purpose of retention to address new stormwater requirements. The site plan has also been refined to address utilities and grading technical requirements. We have some updated elevations and sketches that I wanted to share with you as well. This is an overview of the whole site from a bird's eye view. The multifamily housing component that fronts onto Mission Avenue has a few steps up to the first floor to create a separation from Mission Avenue, which can be a busy street, to provide for privacy for first floor residents. You can also see a pathway along the front that continues with the universal design strategies that were outlined in the vision plan. The mixed-use component is retained in the project site. The first floor would provide for commercial opportunities, and the second 2 floors above would be for apartment homes. This view right here shows a common courtyard where residents can congregate, or it can also be used for food services and coffee, and it's a gathering place within the plan. The Family Resource Center is located on the eastern portion of the site, and some of the uses that John mentioned will be housed in this facility. There'll be meeting rooms, there'll be computers that are provided for the residents, there'll be classes, there'll be daycare, a variety of programs that John can go into more detail on if there are questions. The senior housing component, as viewed from Mission Avenue, is reflected in this particular sketch. You can see the mixed-use building on the left-hand side. Again, the architecture retains the mission-inspired theming as outlined in the vision plan. Another view of the senior housing building within the site, looking from within the site northward. We wanted to just end on this sketch, which shows the complete site, to say that we believe it's become a more efficient site and also just a better design, creating more compatibility with the neighbors by reducing building height and also creating greater setbacks from the areas where existing homes are and residences could be affected. So that's it for the update for today.
Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Mayor and Council, that's our presentation. The other thought that we wanted to leave with you is that we've consulted with the National Association of Home Builders on a typical tax credit development. These are 3 phases of tax credit developments, and they're estimating that during the construction of this project, between 300 to 400 full-time jobs after the construction has finished, 50 full-time jobs. But the key is that there's going to be approximately $2 to $3 million per year in local annual sales taxes and revenue coming to the city of Oceanside, and that is per directly to the National Association of Home Builders. Why? The biggest is this, is that if you have a one-bedroom home, a one-bedroom apartment, and you're paying $800 to $1,000 a month here today in Oceanside, our resident will be paying $400. The difference is 500 times 12. That is not going to the landlord's pocket. That is freed up discretionary money that hopefully will be used to pay off some debt, maybe savings. But you know what? It's going to be spent mostly, and it's probably going to be spent either in the city of Oceanside, maybe some in Vista, but most of it's going to be spent here in the city of Oceanside. And so that, plus that sales tax generation, is going to be an economic shot in the arm to Oceanside when this project gets completed, not to mention the spending going on during construction. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Is that your presentation there, David? Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have speakers?
We have 5 speakers. Please come forward to either podium in the order called. First is Jackie Camp. Second is Larry Berry. Third is Maria Russell. Fourth is Kathleen Golina. And fifth is Evie Quignon.
David, will you get a portable mic? Chaz, thank you. Hi, Jackie. You're up first, Jackie.
It's not good evening. It's good afternoon.
Thank you, Larry.
Starting off on a good note. Thank you. I had good evening, and I'm saying it's good afternoon. Okay, I come to you this afternoon wearing a different hat, that being the chairperson for the Disability Committee of San Diego County. I am appointed by the County Board of Supervisors, and I have held this position for 8 to 12 years. As you know, I am always active and concerned with the independence of all people. I come before you with the good news that we finally have in place a plan which includes universal design, that being the Mission Cove project. Some of you may appreciate the definitions I have brought along. Universal design makes homes accessible for young and old, healthy and infirm without making the homes look sterile and cold. Universal design is about creating an attractive, stylish space that everyone, regardless of age, size, or ability, can live in or visit. A home with universal design makes it easier for residents to live in it and guests to visit now and in the future, even as everybody's needs and abilities change. Universal design refers to a broad spectrum of ideas meant to produce buildings, products, and environments that are inherently accessible to all people without disabilities or people with disabilities. The term universal design was coined by architect Ronald Mace to describe the concept designing all products and the built environment as aesthetic and usable to the greatest extent possible by everyone, regardless of age, ability, or status in life. However, it was Selwyn Goodsmith that pioneered the idea. He was the author of a book entitled Designing for the Disabled. We really need this type of design for all our citizens. Plus, we have an influx of wounded warriors. Oceanside will have a feather in its cap, being the first to initiate this. At this time, I recommend our planning department consider universal design. As I offer in my many presentations, much to educate everyone on the needs of those who are presently disabled, and also for all of us to remember that a disability is a second away. Ask me. We need Mission Cove. It is a beautiful project and layout. I thank you in advance for your approval of the development and disposition agreement for the Mission Cove project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jackie.
My name is Larry Berry. I live on 3973 Brown Street. I'm against this project. I'm against it because we can't afford it. It's as simple as that. And there's other obstructions in the way. It costs too much. You're asking for waivers already. I mean, you're coming with your hand out, and the people of Oceanside just can't afford it. You're coming waiving fees and school fees. About a mile, maybe less than a mile away from there is San Luis Rey Elementary School. It's due to close. It sits right on. You could not build San Luis Rey School today. It sits right underneath one of the major gas lines that go east to west here. It's an 18, the same one that blew up in San Francisco and took out half the neighborhood. There's high voltage wires under the school, and it's on a flight path. So the school is, and there's low attendance at that school. So it is destined as a school. It's on the school board. I don't think anybody ever checked this out. How many residents, you're talking about multi-families coming in there. One of the problems I have with, these, let's just tell what it is. It's low-income housing or no-income housing. The thought that these people are going to have a $500 extra to spend in the city of Oceanside it's pie in the ice up in the air. It's not going to happen. I know in our church we have several women that I've known over the last 10 years that entered into on Old Grove Road, the low-income housing there that set in. They work as LPNs and nurses. The problem is they never leave. The kids there, they have opportunities to get married. They won't get married. They'd rather stay in their housing, the low-income housing. They have opportunities to get promoted. They don't want to make too much money to move out. I think that, the millions of dollars that you're asking from the city to help on this project is simply, we're arguing over street sweepers for $700,000. We're talking $3 million. And we don't know, are these all people going to be lifelong residents that have lived and contributed in the city of Oceanside? Or are they going to come like in the mobile home parks where they come down from LA and take advantage of our city? I think due diligence, low-income housing, I think in the last time we went through the builder's permit, Low-income housing, Oceanside is low-income housing. We got a lot of people in this city that are on the poverty level in the city, and they still own a house, and they live in a house, and they double up, and they're doing whatever they can to do it to stay in their homes. We need, I would like to see these people have, if they move in these houses, an opportunity to move out. It should be more of a transition, a transit. They move out of this place, but I don't see it happening. In all of these low-income housing situations that I've seen and I've experienced, they don't. They stay there 10, 20 years, and they enjoy it because they don't have to move. There's nothing to move it. I oppose this. Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good evening. Mayor Wood, City Council members, my name is Maria Russell, and I'm the president of the Eastside Neighborhood Association and the resident for the past 12 years. I'm here to support the new 288 apartment proposed affordable housing to be built at Mission Cove. As we start to come out of our economic recession and move forward, a project like this allows veterans, police, firefighters, seniors, and the homeless to position themselves again to be part of the middle class. And as we all know, the middle class is the wheel that makes the economy go round. To allow folks to work and live in Oceanside makes for a greater sense of community. There are some folks here that have lived in Oceanside for years, and they would like to stay close to their families. It is good economic sense by encouraging the use of our wonderful mass transit while relieving the gridlock of the freeways. And lastly, moving forward with a project like this speaks loud to other cities that Oceanside cares about their residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Council.
You'll have to bring that mic down.
That's all right. Okay. A little shorty here. Well, I'm not very prepared. My name is Kathleen. I'm a resident of Old Grove. I've been there for approximately 7 years. And as a senior citizen, I was really involved and anxious to hear about Mission Cove. I feel that the spot is absolutely perfect, being so close to the bus line, my church, which would be San Luis Rey. And I feel that the low-income seniors, as myself, that basically live on Social Security, really deserve, after all these years, a beautiful, safe community. Now, Old Grove has been absolutely, in those 7 years, as far as I'm concerned, have the best management and also maintenance. Any requirements we needed, they were there immediately to take care of us. I felt, when I heard one of the other speakers, that attitude is absolutely uncalled for. Veterans in this community, as well as seniors with disabilities, we would all pretty much be together and work together. It would be a better atmosphere for all of us. Those of us that don't drive because of health issues, as myself, I have major health issues. So it would be something that I think that we could all be together at our age and feel fortunate and feel like we were accepted in the community. And I do believe that we would have a little more monies than they're worried about the monies that we're going to pay or take care of this community. So I do, and I am in favor of Mission Cove, and hopefully it will succeed. I would be very, very thankful and grateful if I was accepted as one of the first seniors there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Good evening. Yeah, you'll have to pull that mic down too.
Good evening. Mayor Wood, City Council, other distinguished board members. My name is Evie Quinn. I live on 2732 Waterbury Way in Carlsbad. and I am a parishioner at St. Thomas More Catholic Community, of which Father Mike Radicek is the pastor, who is an advocate for the poor and needy, and we do a lot in our parish. I'm on the Social Justice Committee, and I'm also a very active member over 15 years with the Interfaith Committee for Worker Justice. So social justice, I'm an 84-year-old retiree, and social justice has always been my passion. I immigrated from Germany over 60 years ago, and I am so very, very grateful to be a citizen of this great country. I've lived here in North San Diego County for 27 years. I just lost my husband last year. But I'm advocating for justice, and housing, shelter, and food is really the need of everyone, and I always advocate for the common good, and I vote for the common good. I don't just vote on issues that I personally would benefit. So to us at St. Thomas More, the issue of the construction, first of all, the approval of the construction and the construction of that Mission Cove housing project, affordable housing project, is just really, it's on the top of our agenda. We have been talking for years what we can do, how we can advocate, how we can help, how we can participate and bring affordable housing to our people. I don't have to tell you how many come to the church and ask for food, for clothing, for all kinds of help, medical help, and the housing is something we really can't help with. You know, I have a house, I keep thinking I should be taking somebody into my house. It's not fair if as people are out on the street and people who live in the car, and like the previous speaker said, speakers and plural, talked about the veterans coming home. So housing, if we can expect them to integrate back into society and looking for a good job, it's the most important thing. I don't have to ask you for anything specific about this housing. I'm grateful that it's coming about, and I urge you from the bottom of my heart to bring it about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
I have two additional requests.
Please go right ahead.
First be Michelle Lamb, followed by Don Strump.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. There's two podiums. You can take one to each one. Your name's been called. Thank you.
Michelle Lamb first, please.
There's two podiums. Name and address for the clerk, please, in the record.
Okay, my name is Michelle Lamb.
Michelle, could you pull the mic up for you? You're taller than the last lady.
How's that? Is that better?
Outstanding.
Okay. My name is Michelle Lamb. I'm a former resident here in Oceanside, 14 years. I had a nice home. I had a small business. And in 2010, the recession hit my business. I had to close it. And as a result, I lost my home. Now, I'm 70 years old. I'm a veteran. I had hoped that there would be some place other than the street for me. It certainly wouldn't last very long there. And this organization, the one who is proposing Mission Cove, literally saved my life. As I mentioned before, I certainly wouldn't last long out on the street. I have a reasonable apartment, and it's fair rent. And, you know, I think that when you get old and you have limited income, you know, maybe society should consider something like that. I think Oceanside could be known for its compassion rather than our past. It was a little rocky. But I would encourage you, I beseech you to approve this project. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Good evening, sir.
Hello, my name is Donald Stump. I'm with North County Lifeline, and we have programs and services here at Oceanside at 707 Oceanside Boulevard and at Crown Heights. I'm here in support of this proposition. The organization that I run basically is a place where people come that are in the most need and the most trouble at any given time. And what we're finding is there's a significant changing demographic of those coming to us for housing, for food, and for emergency assistance. And those key folks are grandparents with returning grandchildren and grandkids, middle class who have lost their job and are about to lose their house, veterans who are young, old, middle-aged, and seniors, and of course seniors. And we know that housing is really the foundation need that all of them share, and it's the best way that we can do to stabilize their life at this point. So for this project, we really see an increased need to build more affordable units for seniors and help them get food resources and things that they need that are going to help them have the most prosperous life for the rest of their life. So I am a big advocate of Community Housing Works. They deliver. They're very successful housing providers. They do beautiful projects and maintain them and run them well. And I work with them across the whole North County, including here in Oceanside, and I do support this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, sir.
I have one more speaker, please.
Please, go right. Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
Castle.
Good evening, Mayor and council members.
Hold that mic down for you. Thank you.
My name is Mary Lou Castle, and I represent the Social Justice Committee of St. Thomas More in Oceanside. We wish to encourage the council to pass item 16 and give DDA approval for a senior affordable housing development located on the beautiful site called Mission Cove. This is an exciting intergenerational project for a model community that will benefit seniors and families and be an asset to the city. It seems that we're getting to the point in this society where everyone's financial towel is being wrung dry. The soaring costs of fuel, utilities, and maintaining a roof over our heads has now reached several $1,000s per month for us ordinary mortals. What then is it doing to the vulnerable seniors and families with children? After they've paid their utilities and rent, there's very little left to buy food. I know, I've seen the waiting lines at Brother Benno's where I serve food once a month. We tend to forget that there are good, decent people going seriously hungry in our society. Many seniors, homeless veterans, and families with children. By freeing parents from the one major stress of survival, children would have access to the nutritional dietary improvements they need to grow up healthy and balanced, and do so in a safe and secure environment. Finally, wherever senior citizens are, there is a rich educational and cultural background that will be shared within the community. This is a great step for the future of Oceanside, and it meets an ongoing need while at the same time beautifying the city with state-of-the-art architecture, walkways, and gardens. Please pass item 16. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Mr. Clerk, is that it?
That's all, Speaker.
Thank you very much. Come back to council. Councilmember Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and recommend move approval of the disposition development agreement with National Community Renaissance and Community Housing Works for the Mission Cove Affordable Housing Project located along the 3200 block of Mission Avenue, and authorize city manager to execute the agreement.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second? I'll second that for right now. If I may.
Thank you. Yes. This is an $81 million project coming to our city. It is an extremely important economic development project. It's going to bring jobs and infuse sales tax into our city. This has been a long process. I'm actually kind of proud to have been part of that process. I attended the initial community meetings at Marty's Valley Inn in the community. And so this has been a truly community-oriented process. I think that what I've seen so far is a good plan. I certainly like the mixed use piece of this. Certainly, we do have seniors and veterans, especially veterans. We are going to be hit. San Diego County is going to be hit the hardest, or the have the biggest impact in terms of returning veterans who will be looking for homes and jobs. And the City of Oceanside is probably going to be one of the cities in San Diego County that is going to be hit the hardest. So we have to have housing available for our seniors, for our veterans, for our families who, in fact, families are still struggling. I want to say that this is an impressive development team that we've picked. Long history of success in obtaining funding. This truly is probably the most ideal team that I've seen come together on this project. They also have a tremendous history of success in managing the projects. They don't just, build it and then they leave. They build, they stay. They make sure that these projects, that those that are accepted as tenants really do live up to this ideal, this notion of a community. And this is a good project for Oceanside, and I do hope that we approve it. Thank you. I do want to say one other thing. There was an issue that was brought up about the funds that would go to this project, that we can't afford it. These are actually funds set aside for this specific purpose and no other purpose. So this is not something that we could put into any other project in Oceanside that's non-affordable housing project. So this is good. Thanks.
Thank you. I want to jump here real quick, and I have other lights on, but I need to say, if I may, in front of everybody, that I've worked with both of these groups and other projects, and I've always been happily satisfied with the results. I drove with our chair, Ms. Parker, to different locations around the North County and looked at these different projects around the county. And not only are they beautiful and nice and needed, but the aspect of control, with the city control and the other people involved in this, they keep them clean, they keep everybody out, zero tolerances. I've been very happy about that for the ones here in Oceanside, too. We've had great results from them. And let's face it, I sit on Sandag, and some of the biggest issues are arena numbers, housing numbers. They're unbelievable numbers. And we have to keep up with them. And I like nice projects, if we're going to have in town, not slum areas, not slum projects, but nice, affordable housing for the people we talk about all the time. Try to help them out. The other thing I want to confirm is Jackie, Ms. Parker back in the back, and every people who spoke today, Lifeline, this is something we need in the community. It's valuable. I think from the state level, these are the type of things that will get funded too, is affordable housing, etc. So, Ms. Pierce, I appreciate all your involvement with Dave getting projects like here in the city of Oceanside. Everybody, you've done a wonderful job, but I want to clarify one thing tonight, besides saying thank you for what you've done in the past and what you will do in the future, is this is not the final vote on this. This is to move forward. And this is going to be up to these people to get the financing money to come forward to make sure this is taken care of. So the vote tonight is to move forward on this and authorize the city manager to execute an agreement. With that in mind, remember, this is not the last vote on that. They'll be back here for us regarding finances. But with that, Marjorie, you sat there. I'm going to ask you any input regarding this project that would concern you, and you do this all the time.
No, we're very pleased with the outcome of the DDA that we've negotiated. And yes, Mayor, you're absolutely correct. This is not obligated any funding for this project. That will be something that would be coming for you in the future once we have the funding identified.
Thank you very much with that. I thank you very much. And I want to say thank you to everybody who's been involved first. And I apologize, Councilmember Feline, you're next, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, but I appreciate your indulgence on the request. In view of the time, I have several questions here, and in view of our meeting time, I was just wondering if we can start our meeting and then come back to this afterwards.
I think you can go right ahead, sir.
I know when I came to the council, this was one of the first votes I had, and I voted to support this project. And of course, since that time, the state has decided to end redevelopment, and they certainly created it, and they certainly have the right to end it, but they certainly did it in probably the most reckless and competent way that could possibly be done, and, was focused simply on grabbing as much money from the cities as they could without any concern for the impact on our cities and our policies. So in view of the new world that we're in, I just want to get more warm and fuzzy feelings of how this project fits in. I know some of my questions will probably be redundant, so I do appreciate your indulgence, but I just want to make sure, in terms of the 17 million the city's contributing, where is that coming from? Is that money we've already set aside, or is that anticipating future inclusionary housing fees?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Feline. All of the resources haven't been identified, but we do have some money. We have some money in our inclusionary housing fund. We have some money that's owed from redevelopment to housing that under the current law is to be repaid to the housing fund. We also have some federal home funds that have not been allocated that are eligible for this project, and we're looking forward to the state identifying hopefully a permanent source of funds that could be used for this project. And in addition, we expect to have some bond proceeds in the sale of Laguna Vista that potentially could be used for this project as well.
And in terms of those sources you just identified, roughly how much does that total?
6, 7, 8. About $13.5 million.
So we're still short about 4. Would that be money if these other sources don't come through that we'd be obligated to spend from the general fund?
No, sir, absolutely not.
Okay, well, then what would happen if we got to a point where we said we've done our best, but based on these grant applications and the state budget situation, we couldn't come up with our share of 17 million?
At this time, the DDA is for a period of 5 years with an extension of 3 years, and at the end of 8 years, I think we would have to determine whether or not this project is going to come to fruition and be feasible, ask for an extension, or abandon the project. The city would still own all of the entitlements and the land and could move forward sometime in the future.
If I may too, I'm sorry, sir. They stepped to the podium. I didn't know if you wanted their assistance. I'm sorry.
And actually, to be more specific on the financing, the DDA obligates us to come out of the ground with phase A and B. Phase A and B, and now phase D, the gap financing on that is $13.7 million. The $17.5 million has already been reduced. You've already lent this project $1.5 million, so now it's $15.9. $13.7 is what we need to come out of the ground with. You have cash on hand right now of $1.5 million in federal home funds. 2012, 2013, I'm going to ballpark $1 million to $1.5 million. So that's $3 million of federal home funds. Again, none of this is committed tonight. You have $4.6 million of inclusionary housing fees, cash on hand. You have $4.3 million of ERAF and SERAF that per AB 1484 by law has to come back to the housing fund. That adds up to it leaves a balance of $200,000. We're going to be applying for an AHP fund of $1.5 million. We've received probably $15 million in aid. I don't know what every project we apply, we get. So actually, with your cash on hand plus next year's home funds, if that's available, and the ERAF, not mentioning any state funding whatsoever, we're going to have a surplus of $1.3 million if we can win our AHP award. Okay? The ERAF and the SERAF's not coming back tomorrow. It's going to take several years. It could come back in chunks of $300,000 to $500,000 a year. So the money's there to get us out of the ground and to deliver the pad to Community Housing Works with utilities stubbed to site. And by that time, we'll make it work. we'll make that work.
This is our business and our job and what we do every day. We don't get paid till it's built. We don't get paid till we close finance. And if that's another 2 years, we're working without pay. And so we have a really good incentive to make sure we get this done in addition to our mission as a nonprofit. And so, yes, I think the 17 million is what we in this industry call a gap. I think John's done a good job on identifying potential city filling of that gap, and our job is to go find other sources. And there are Prop 1C, the money that was the state, the bond money. Some of that money is never been used, is going to come back, is going to go out for RFPs. By approving a DDA today, you give us the tools to be ready, because some of these applications we cannot even apply if we don't have a DDA, because they say you don't have site control. You're working on it, you've got an ENA, that's good, you don't have site control, you need a DDA. With the DDA, we've got the tool in our hand to go try to get that money.
That's correct. Okay, well, certainly let me state that, my concern here isn't for your competency or commitment to the project at all. It has to do with, unfortunately, our reckless and irresponsible relative known as the state government, and whether they go on some stampede that's going to damage us and leave us hanging in some way. And that's kind of the change that I've seen, since we've created or began moving forward on this project. And so that's why I'm trying to get my warm and fuzzies around that issue. And but as it relates to that, I don't know if this question would be more appropriate for our city attorney, city manager, any of you other ladies and gentlemen there. We've talked about different housing funds that might be at risk of another state grab. Are any of the monies committed to this project at risk if the state decides to move against housing funds to grab every loose nickel we haven't buried in the backyard?
Well, maybe I should jump in. No, I don't believe so. The only funds that you've committed technically under the agreement are the 1.5 million approximately that you've already approved. So that's not at issue. I think if your question relates to those other funding sources that have been discussed that are potentially available, I have no information that those are going to be grabbed by the state at any time in the immediate future. So.
Okay, thank you. In terms of the actual agreement between the city, does the agreement, as I'm reading, I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, in section 3.22, does it basically say all of any funding we get for affordable housing can only go to Mission Cove or have their permission to spend it on another project?
Councilmember Feline, that's kind of how it reads. But if there's a project that comes forward and that there's a need for it, emergency need or something like that, we can always discuss it with the development team, and if it's of a small nature, possibly apply it to a different project. But right now, we are given the priority to this project to make it come to fruition.
Okay, and this isn't a field I'm intimately familiar with. Is that kind of provision typical in a project, or is this kind of unique?
I can refer to the city attorney if that's...
I haven't seen a provision like that before, but it does not require... What that section says is that the city agrees that it shall consult in good faith with the developer prior to committing future funds to any other affordable residential project proposed in the city. It doesn't prohibit you from making funds available for other projects, but it does require you to consult in good faith with this development team before doing so.
Okay, thank you. In terms of the per unit subsidy, once again, guys, am I correct in understanding that we're at 100 to 150,000 per unit?
You're below 50,000 a unit.
Oh, okay. So, is I'm understanding that Vista just approved a project that didn't require any city subsidy, and that the average subsidy is around between 30 and 50,000 for most projects in San Diego County. So.
Average project gap is anywhere from 80 over 100,000. Mm-hmm. In fact, if you don't have federal tax credits, you can't make the project work. I don't know of any project in the history of San Diego County, affordable, permanent affordable, again, apples to apples, permanent affordable, that has ever come out of the ground for no gap subsidy. Absolutely not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
That's...
I mistold there. Then, we've been working on for the past year and a half now a reformed inclusionary housing ordinance that, among other things, changed the inclusionary housing fee to try and create market incentives, and our fee was adjusted downward from around $10,000 to around, I believe it was $1,900, if my memory serves me correct, based on the fact that due to the Great Recession, our housing prices have dropped dramatically, therefore increasing our affordability index, therefore triggering the justification for a much lower fee. So does moving forward in that direction and the market incentive inclusionary housing ordinance, would that have any negative impact on the funding for this project, or the anticipated $17 million that you're counting on the city, or down to $15 million that you're counting on the city to put in?
Councilmember Feline, no, we haven't really counted on any additional inclusionary to be applied to this. If it happens to come through, we could definitely look at that, but it wouldn't have an effect at this point.
Okay, great. Well, that concludes my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And Councilmember Kern, please.
Thank you. I'm going to be a little bit briefer than Councilmember Feline. He's a numbers guy, and I just had a couple quick questions and probably a little bit of a criticism. One, the idea just to address a couple issues that were brought up in different ways by Mr. Berry and the other speaker, the qualifications to live there. Once a person gets there, are they going to be there forever, or this is someplace they can start and we reevaluate? John, you're shaking your head. Come up and give an explanation instead of shaking your head, because I don't think people at home can see that.
Yeah, between our two groups, we're probably 15,000 units. I'm going to say on the seniors project, and MJ can respond, that a lot of those seniors will actually be working. Some of them will be retired. On the family project, they're all working. This is the backbone workforce of Oceanside, and our priority waiting list, and Fair Housing has said this okay, priority is going to be Oceanside taxpayers. So if you're working in Oceanside, if you're living in Oceanside, that's going to be on the priority list. You can't rent an apartment from us unless you're working. You have to go through background checks. You have to have 3 credit reports of your history, third-party verification of your employment. We don't take cash for the rent. Yeah, criminal backgrounds. These are people that are living here today working. Police, fire, teachers, and I'll bet you right now probably 50% of people in this room could qualify to live at Mission Cove. 50%.
So what's the level of qualification, income versus median?
Up to 60% of the area median income, with an average rent at 50% of the average median. So the average median income around is $100,000. So if you have a family of 4, of about average median income in San Diego County is about, for a family of 4, is $100,000.
So 60% of that, so $60,000 for a family of 4?
$35,000 to $45,000 per year for a family of 4. You would qualify to live in a family community.
Okay.
Yes. I don't have the numbers for a senior, but and we would go down to $25,000 a year for a family of 4, down to 30% of the area median income.
If they fall below that number?
Yes, but you have to be income qualified. We don't want you to pay 30% more of your income towards rent. Okay? So people here in Oceanside today are paying 50% of their income to rent, and maybe even more.
Okay.
Times 60? Well, yeah. So I guess the point is that people that are working in the family project, living there, they have to work. They're working. They're not homeless, and they're not working. Mary Jane's project has a homeless component for the veterans, and the idea is to move them up. The other is the philosophy. We love when our residents start becoming overqualified. And so what we do is we pick up the phone to our housing person. In this case, it would be Marjorie, and we would say, do you have any first-time home buyer funds available that we could match and bring them into housing? And We've lost hundreds of residents over the past several years to home buyer opportunities. Sometimes they leave the city of Oceanside to go to El Cajon to afford a condo, and that's the saddest part, because they're paying good rent. Now they're owners, and they move away because they can't afford to live here in Oceanside.
Okay. All right, well, that's fine. I just did do that. So, just a couple of things. The cost savings from Phase A can be used for contingencies for cost overruns on later phases instead of paying down the bonds. Why is that? Why would they set that money aside if there's any cost savings on a phase, that they would hold that money back for cost overruns on subsequent phases? I'm a little bit bothered by that one. So the idea that if you have any savings, like Phase A, if you save any money, instead of paying down the bonds, you're going to hold the money for contingencies on Phase B and C and D.
Correct. That's the idea, is to roll over the savings for cost overruns in case we run into any unexpected issues.
But at the end of the day, if there's savings...
Oh, yeah.
Then instead of paying the bonds, you're going to use it for rent subsidies.
No. If there's any savings back, what we do, and it's customary, is that money's returned to the housing fund. It's returned. If we have project cost savings at the end of the day, that money's going to go back to the housing fund.
Which can go back to pay back the bonds, or would we...
There's no bonds here. There's no bonds.
There's requirements depending on the funding source to put that money back where the city is the first paid back if there's cost savings, because we're just providing the gap, which is the last piece of the component. So let's say it's home funds. The federal law requires that any home funds that are repaid go back into home programming.
Correct.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Hold on real quick. Sorry, I apologize. We were supposed to be at 5 o'clock. I didn't think this would be a long item. We got people that need to leave here in a second for presentations. I'm going to put this one on hold. I know other questions coming up. Mark them down. If you folks don't mind, I'm told by May there's people have to leave, so we're going to have the early part set aside. We'll come right back to this, but I also need to go to the second part of this, which is going to be invocation, pledge of allegiance, and some presentations. I was just told some people have to leave. So with that, please stop there, ladies and gentlemen. Take a deep breath. We'll get to the second phase of this at 5 o'clock. Madam Clerk, would you please? Not Madam Clerk, my aide. Thank you.
He's already forgotten about me.
Yeah, you look familiar.
Actually, if you'd all stand at this time, we are going to have the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. And with us this evening, we have Reverend Malaki Tawa'ili from the Oceanside Samoan Congregational Church of Mesa Margarita.
Let us pray. O God, whom people of different persuasions call by different names, yet on whom we all alike rely for our lives, our land, and for the opportunity for happiness, grant us, we pray, a new and revitalization of our city right here in Oceanside. Help us, O God, to remember that we are Americans, united not by race or religion or blood, but to our commitment to freedom and justice for all. When we focus on ourselves, when we fight each other, when we forget you, forgive us. When we presume that our greatness and our prosperity is ours alone, forgive us. When we fail to treat our fellow human beings of this city with the respect that they deserve, forgive us. Grant our mayor, our city councilmen and councilwomen clarity in their aims, responsibility in their actions, humility in their approaches, and civility in their attitudes, even when they differ in their opinions. Help the leaders of the city and its citizens to share, to serve, and to seek the common good of all. May all people of Oceanside join together to work for a more just, a more healthy, and a more prosperous city and more peaceful streets. And may we never forget that one day all nations and all people and all of us here within this beachside community stand accountable before you. We pray this along with the silent prayers of each of our citizens in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you so much, Pastor Malaki.
This evening, leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, we would like to invite forward into the dais circle the Oceanside Senior Volunteer Drivers at this time.
Hey guys, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Good seeing you guys.
Good looking group. Thank you very much. Who's going to get the mic for the pledge? Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all.
You may all be seated at this time.
You guys join me here.
At this time, we would also like to call forward Marjorie Pierce, who's our Director in the Housing Department, Eileen Turk, Manager of Parks and Recreation Division, Janet Great, who is a Program Specialist in Parks and Rec, and Lois Batchelor, one of our Parks and Rec staffers. And this evening we have a proclamation in honor of Solutions for Seniors on the Go, Transportation Programs Volunteer Drivers. Whereas 1,100 Oceanside seniors over the age of 65 are currently enrolled in the transportation program. And whereas during fiscal year 2011 to 2012, 3,577 taxi script booklets were sold, and 5,085 one-way van rides were given. And whereas our volunteer drivers provided 2,236 one-way rides, and whereas the city's volunteer drivers gave their energy and time to provide rides for Oceanside seniors who have no other means of transportation for doctor appointments, grocery shopping, pharmacy, and other necessary daily outings. And whereas we wish to acknowledge the volunteer drivers for their ongoing dedication in making a difference in so many senior lives. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jim Wood, Mayor of the City of Oceanside, do hereby proclaim August 15th, 2012 as Solutions for Seniors on the Go Volunteer Driver Day in Oceanside, and urge all residents to honor the accomplishments and contributions of these very special individuals.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, in this community, a military-type town, we have a lot of retirees here, mainly because of the Naval Regional Hospital. But with that, changing times, the economy, people need to get the hospital's appointment, doctor's appointment. We have some people that step up and say, please, I'd like to get involved. These people are those. And I want to thank them personally, besides the commendation, the award we gave to you. Thank you from our hearts that you're out there saying thank you to the community, giving back to all the seniors and all the other people that are involved and need this assistance every day. Certainly our staff is involved with you and done some wonderful things. And we truly, truly appreciate it, because some of us might be in that situation soon in the older days are coming, and we do appreciate that you step forward and make things easier for our seniors in our community. Thank you and God bless. But if there's anybody else that wanted to say a few words like you, I think you are.
Okay. Just quickly, for those of you at home watching this on TV, please call the Oceanside Senior Center to get information for this program. The number is 760-435-5253 for all of your senior transportation needs, both to become a volunteer and or if you need our services for the shuttle, the taxi, or the volunteer driver program. You may not need these services today, but tomorrow you may need it for a family member or yourself, and this is a tremendous service. In addition, for anybody new to this program, it is funded by Sandag and Transnet, so they're grants to the City of Oceanside Oceanside to conduct these programs. And it's a really great partnership with the City of Oceanside and Sandag. So really fantastic program. It's great to meet the volunteers. We know time sensitive, but we are just going to run down really fast if the volunteers will say their name. And Lois and Janet, you'll see them at Country Club Senior Center. Please pick up our flyers. They're at the back of the room, or either of our senior centers. You can pick up a brochure for more information. So we'll go to Jean. Jean Sturl.
Jerry Patrick.
Doreen Posen.
Jim Shea.
Bob Waterbury.
Bill Raleigh.
Linda Concepcion.
Althea Sievertson.
And I just want to say thank you for doing this. It's so important to the residents of Oceanside.
Next presentation happens to be a very special update for CPR Month, and at this time we'd like to call forward Fire Chief Daryl Hebert.
Thank you. I'm really pleased to be here, and I want to make sure I talk to the council members as well. CPR month, or CPR week for the national is actually June 1st through the 7th. And unfortunately, we had a very busy month in June and July, and to get our volunteers, because we had something really unique happen in our city, I wanted to make sure they were able to come, so we're bumping it to August. So please pretend like it's June, and we will celebrate it. First of all, I just want to recognize a member of my staff, and I'll have her come up, Assistant Training Officer, Nurse Educator Lynn Seablum, come on up. Lynn has been the backbone in providing several hours of training to several volunteers with the assistance of the Oceanside Kiwanis and Oceanside Rotary Club. And she has brought 51 automatic external defibrillators, like you see right over there, all throughout the city of Oceanside and on every lifeguard unit and harbor police officer unit and on the harbor boats. So she's done an incredible job. She's also made it an effort, along with our fire association, and we have the president here, Daniel Gonzalez, come on up. The department partnered up with the association. It was hours of volunteer time with members of the association, and we taught over 340 citizens CPR, hands-on CPR. So that's 340 more citizens that are prepared to take action if somebody should go into cardiac arrest. On May 6th of this year, during the memorial paddle out of Junior Seau, we had the unfortunate incident of one of the individuals that was out in the water went down into full cardiac arrest. Fortunately, due to our lifeguards, which I'm going to bring up, Captain Bill Curtis and Sergeant Tyler Berry, come on up. We were very fortunate to have a very together lifeguard captain that sensed that we needed additional staffing because of the amount of people that were at that paddle out. And we were really fortunate to have one of the lifeguards who couldn't be here tonight, who understood how to use the AED. And this particular person that went down in cardiac arrest was taken out of the water by lifeguards. They were met by our crew, and we have a crew member here, Corey Hawk, come on up. This particular individual was brought out of the water. Her heart stopped beating. She wasn't breathing. And with the assistance of the automatic defibrillator and these gentlemen and the excellent fine lady that couldn't be here tonight, she's able to join us tonight. So I want to bring up Diana Gibson. It's not often that we actually get to stand next to one of our survivors, and Diana has been a huge help in getting the word out. We've been to street fairs, we've been all over. She's got the Longboarders Surfing Club. Most of them have been through the certification. She has been a mouthpiece for us just because of her experience, and most of all, we're grateful that she's here with us today. And then secondly, we're grateful to the council for supporting the grant, and the Kiwanis and the Rotary Club for stepping up. It certainly helps our organization. So I want to thank you personally for that, and thank you.
When we get somebody like that here, sir, so this young lady's helped me on several occasions, I got to tell you, and I'm going to pass the mic to you. Yes, sir.
This is very overwhelming that I just want to thank, I can't thank enough. First of all, the city of Oceanside for bringing a staff and crew like you have here. I can't tell you that I'm able to talk to you and how grateful I am standing here talking to you because of these people right here, and how everything got brought to pass with the AED machine and Rudy bringing the AED machine, and that story goes back 12 years, and I won't bore you with that. But all I can say is thank you. Thank you so much, and let's continue to push the CPR training, the AED training. I want to get certified myself because it's all about paying it forward, and that's what I want to do.
Tighten it up, tighten it up. We're going to get in here. Somebody. Let's hear it for these heroes. Thank you very much.
For our final presentation this evening, we'd like to bring forward the new Executive Director of the Joe and Mary Mutino Family YMCA, and that would be Sarah Reese. And also, we'd like to call forward Phil Schneider, Chairman of the Board for San Diego County YMCA.
Yeah, thank you for having us here today. It's my pleasure to introduce Sarah here. Many of you don't know, San Diego County YMCA is the second largest association in the country. We have over 4,000 people in the county, $140 million budget, and we have goals this year to go through a new visioning process to try to figure out how we can serve more children, more families, military, looking at problems like obesity, and we're looking forward to working with the cities on how to do that best and how to kind of work together. And so I think one of the favorite things we've done is we've hired Sarah to head up the new Latino Y, and we're really excited to have her, and I think you guys your community is going to be blessed by having her.
Mayor, thank you. City Council, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I just want to say I'm very thankful to be here. My husband and I relocated here from Kansas City, and he is an active duty Marine, so he's here at Camp Pendleton. So So we feel very fortunate to truly be a member of the Oceanside community. And I do want to say that as of July 1st, we kicked off a new military initiative at the Matino Y, so we hope many of our veterans and active duty come and take advantage of that. But we're approaching our 10-year anniversary, and we continue to serve many more people every single day because of the great partnerships and support we have through the City of Oceanside, focusing on our core support, looking at youth development, social responsibility, and healthy living. So thank you for the opportunity today, and we look forward to doing many more things at Oceanside. Thank you, Mayor.
The entire council as a whole really appreciate the Y and what you do out there. We certainly, I was out there, met you at one of the events for seniors, and I appreciate that when we first met. But let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, we got one of the nicest Ys in the entire area with a view that's $1 million view, especially out of the workout room. And the saltwater pool, everybody loves it. You're very buoyant in it. And you had obesity. I know I was your poster child for that. And I don't know how that happened. But anyhow, I thank you for being here. And it's always nice to be out and all the people on TV and the audience to see your face and put a face with somebody they hear about all the time. So thank you for being here. Let's get a photo in case somebody asks later. You can have a further wallet. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for that, but people had to move on and do things, and this item went a little longer than I thought necessary. But anyhow, thank you very much. With that, Councilmember Kern, you had questions pending. Thank you, sir.
I guess I'll start over from the top then, right? No, actually, I was almost done. I just had a couple issues here. We talked about sales tax, but there is no property tax on this, is there? We will not receive any property tax proceeds from this these units. And can you explain why that is and how that works?
Well, basically, we don't receive property taxes now on the property. It's undeveloped, but affordable housing has a exclusion through the state that property taxes are not applied to these parcels.
Okay, that's fine. One more thing, if you can put the picture back up there, I just have one question or one kind of a criticism. When we talk about being on a corridor, that one, the thing that being on a major bus route, the criticism I have of this particular plan, there's no bulb out for buses. So the idea, if there's going to be a lot of bus traffic there and a lot of stopping there, I think you ought to have a bus lane or bulb out for the buses. Maybe this is just a rendering, and maybe I'm reading too much into this. It's one picture, but I would think that would be something that would be important to everybody.
Without getting into too much detail with the project that's coming forward through entitlements, there's been discussion with NCTD about it, and the initial discussion with them is that they would prefer to have it no bulb outs, no bulb ins, because the bus actually has to pull back out into traffic versus sitting in traffic, and people have to go around, and they said it was a little safer. So that was the initial comments that they had on that.
Oh, okay, because they didn't have them, then they had them, now they're not having them, and I would think that they would want them because of safety reasons or whatever. I mean, the idea that you would think Of course, if it's wide enough, because I would think with a lot of seniors taking the bus, that the bus would be sitting there for quite a while as people load and offload. So actually getting them out of that traffic flow would be preferable. You know,
There's other services that the Transit District provides, the Lyft service that comes in, and there's a turnout actually in the senior complex for other senior transportation.
Yeah. I guess, you know, I'm going to support the project. I'm kind of reluctant in the fact that we're kind of tying up all our affordable housing in one project. If another project comes along, hopefully we can adapt. You know, I don't see anything on the horizon right now, so I'm not too concerned about that. I don't think people are beating down the doors to build affordable housing projects right now. So I just want to keep our options open if something comes along in the next few years for an affordable project, not to be totally committed to this one all the time for the full project. And so hopefully we can get support here. I remember at the last council meeting, my colleague over here said no more residential. She was dead set against residential. Even though this is a residential project, I hope she will vote for it.
Councilmember Feller?
Yeah, just point of personal privilege.
Correct.
I didn't, this is zone residential. This was particularly cited as residential, bought with housing funds. So I think you've taken that out of context. I said no converting commercial so that we can create more jobs. Thanks.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Hirschhart.
How much did we pay for that property?
The property and the house that's adjacent, about $7.9 million. That's what it was appraised for at the time.
And now that piece of property actually goes over to Carolyn Circle?
Yes, as part of the design of the entire site, there's always anticipated for any development that there needed to be some additional drainage and stormwater drainage and access. So that house will have to be removed, and it will not be an access point for vehicular traffic, but used as part of the overall engineering of the property.
View corridor?
It could be.
Never mind.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. So actually, we've put a lot of money in this project already, just with the 7.9. Is that correct?
The purchase plus the 1.5 for entitlements.
Would you? I think what I'd like to do is just have you tell me how protected we are as the city again. What makes us so protected here that, you know, we've been dealing with a hotel project that's, you know, it's like, what was the movie where every day was the same? Groundhog Day, you know. I'm kind of looking at some of the things that we've done long-term as Groundhog Day, although I had to be persuaded on Oak Grove, and it seems to be successful. So I think that's I just want you to tell me one more time how greatly we're protected. We're not going to lose money on this deal.
As far as the entire development, is that what you're asking? Well, once we get the financing plan together, and once the project's operating, it's set up in such a way that the project is out, we control it for 55 years, have regulatory agreements, make sure that they have operating reserves and replacement reserves. Unlike market rate development, we don't have any control over that, but we make sure that the performas pencil out for the long term, like bonds are issued or any other financing is issued, those have to be all in place before it gets out of the ground. And so there are more assurances on operation versus maybe a market rate development.
Well, market rate has other pluses. We get property tax, and there we have no exposure really at that point. So, okay, so I guess I'm okay. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, ladies and gentlemen, and all the input. Vote. please.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Take a quick 5-minute break for, if you haven't been here before, outside the hallway doors, up the stairs, water and restrooms. Clerk, go to the city attorney for number 22.
Thank you. The City Council met in closed session to discuss item 1, conference with labor negotiator on the status of negotiations. The council met with regard to the unrepresented employees only. There's no action to report. There was no meeting on item 2. Item 3, conference with legal counsel on existing litigation in the matter of Dunnox versus the City of Oceanside. Case numbers are reflected in items 3A, B, and C. Again, there's no action to report. Council also was briefed on item 3D, existing litigation, City of National City et al. Versus Matasanos et al. Again, no action to report on that matter. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, item 23, please, if we have any.
We have no speakers for item 23.
Oh, my goodness. Mark that down.
Yeah, record that.
Moving on. Madam Clerk, number 24, please.
Item 24 is the CDC public hearing. Adoption of a resolution approving an amendment to a development plan, conditional use permit, and regular coastal permit for the addition and remodel of an existing 124-unit motel located at 909 North Coast Highway, Motel 6 remodel. Applicant is 9 Vista Montemar LP.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Public hearing, I'll open this as the chairperson and ask for disclosures from the commissioners. Thank you.
I drove around the parking lot to see how this would look, and that's my only comment.
Yeah, none. Staff?
None.
Staff only, and I drove by a couple times. This is, I think, the third remodel they've done, isn't it? So I think they're becoming regulars.
No, it's off. If I may, real quickly, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Madam Clerk, I apparently didn't get this. Item 26 has been removed.
Okay.
Have you notified everybody? I didn't know if you knew it.
I did not, but I did.
I'm sorry, for people that might be sitting here and for the public, item 26, would you make sure that that's notified and it's been pulled? Thank you very much. And with that, how about Madam Secretary, any correspondence or petitions?
We have no correspondence.
Thank you very much. Chairman, how are you doing tonight? Thank you for being here.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Community Development Commission, City Council. Today we're considering a remodel addition at 909 North Coast Highway from the Motel 6. This particular photo showed as a couple years old when it was actually a year old when it was under construction for the last addition. The project proposes a 5,361 square foot addition along the north and south axis of the building and a reduction in the number of units from the current 124 units to 115 units, which is a 9-unit reduction. The proposed addition room reduction will increase the size of the rooms for 90 of the units. An addition will allow for a new guest lounge area, great room where breakfast will be served, conference and fitness rooms. I'm going to show you the proposed design. This is the closer up of the that one that was under construction about a year ago, and this is the new design. Oh. This is looking southwest, I guess. This is looking to the north. And that's looking to the north. And this is a new design. And the next one shows where the additions are going to be. You barely see it over here. You can see the line. That's where it's adding to the additions here and over here. As you can see from the previous, the original slide, that the exterior facade is rounding it out, providing more rounding than the angular facade as presently designed today. Due to the reduction of the 9 units, the parking will actually be increased by 11 parking spaces because you reduce the demand, parking increases. The purpose of the addition and remodel is to upgrade the motel to meet the guest needs and be competitive in today's market. The market is, according to Kim Walker, the applicant, has changed since he's first built this hotel 10 years ago. The market's changed. Motel 6 was adequate now. Now it's changed. We have a new development, new additions in residential, and the market has totally changed into a different type of market than it was. Hence the upgrades and so forth. We believe the addition and remodel will upgrade the existing motel and make it more competitive. Proposed facade improvement color change will obviously update the whole motel. The project is also consistent with the land use policies of the local coastal plan. From a fiscal analysis or fiscal impact, the cost of the addition and remodel has been estimated at approximately $1 million. So it's a $1 million upgrade. In addition, the applicant, Kim Walker, told me that they're going to upgrade the furniture, and that's another $1 million, which I didn't add in the staff report, which is something you have to do when you upgrade the whole motel. The proposed additional remodel will raise the room rates to an average of $100 a day. In addition, because of the upgrades, the estimated TOT tax will be increased by approximately 40% per year, going to our beautiful Chamber of Commerce. With that, we recommend that the Commission adopt the resolution, approve an amendment to development plan, conditional use permit, and regular coastal permit for the addition and remodel of the existing 124-unit motel located at 909 North Coast Highway. That concludes my presentation. Again, Kim Walker here, representing Motel 6, is here to answer any more questions.
Thank you. Please have a seat, sidebar. Madam Clerk.
This is a public hearing. It is time for the applicant to speak if the applicant so chooses. You have 20 minutes total, including rebuttal.
It seems like we were just at your place on this remodel. We just had a party in your back pool area.
It was about a year ago, Mayor Woods.
Was it that long ago? It seemed like shorter.
Members of the council, yeah. It was about a year ago, back in July last year, when we were celebrating the addition of 18 rooms onto our hotel. Those 18 rooms were all larger rooms, larger than our original Motel 6 prototype rooms that we built 9 years ago now. We've been open for 9 years in June. All successful years. The addition of the larger rooms demonstrated to us that there is a market for the larger rooms. Our larger rooms typically are rented, higher occupancy than our original smaller rooms. So at this point now, we're going to take all of our 92 original rooms that are left untouched from our last edition and expand those out anywhere from 2.5 to 8 feet out the sides, which would be the north side and the south side, to make the rooms larger. The room rates still stay within an affordable range, but it does allow us to market more to families, people coming to the beach, but also people just looking for a larger room than the typical Motel 6 rooms. So our original addition of 18 rooms last year resulted in a revenue, an occupancy increase, of course, but then a total revenue increase of about 35%. Your TOT tax went up, of course, about 35%. We're expecting that kind of increase or better with our current addition. We are also, as part of this whole thing, taking some of our rooms, and that's the reason for the reduction in room count. We're taking 9 of our rooms and making them into a large great room where we could serve a free breakfast. We'll also have a conference room and a fitness room, and we'll be expanding the lobby as well. So better for the employees, better for the guests. You'll also see that our drive-up approach and the exterior is enhanced quite a bit, and that's where quite a bit of our money is going. We think we've got a good-looking project that'll fit right into the community. As the community comes up, we want to keep coming up as well.
Thank you very much.
Proud to be in Oceanside. Any questions for me?
I see none at this time. Or do you have none, Mr. Kern?
Well, let's hear the rest of the
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
If anyone in the public wishes to comment on this item, please come forward to the podium.
Madam Clerk, I see none. I'll close the public hearing and come back to the council. Councilmember Kern.
Now you can come back up because I have a question.
He's testing you.
Looking at your rendering and looking at what you're doing, are you changing flags? Or is this going to be a Motel 6? Because I see this rendering that doesn't show Motel 6 on any of the slides.
Well, certainly our addition and remodel could accommodate a different flag, but we don't have anything locked up at this point. So at this point, we are still in Motel 6, but all of our improvements could accommodate any number of different mid-scale hotels.
Okay, and the other part that intrigues me is the conference room. How large is that going to be?
The conference room is, on the small side, it's about 200, no, I'm sorry. Conference room is 400 square feet, 400 and an odd number of square feet.
Oh, you have a rendering, Shan?
Yeah, so we have, on the third floor, we have a 408-foot conference room, and then what you see on that picture is underneath it, and our great room with all the tables and chairs that you see in the upper right corner of the screen can also be used as a conference room, and that room should be in the range of 800 square feet.
Okay.
You flashed on it there, I think. Is that the third floor? That's our conference room on the second floor, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
No, that's still the first floor. Our conference room shows on the second floor, and it's just 400 square feet. It's like a big boardroom.
It's like a big boardroom.
I guess conferences would be put down here into first floor great room.
I guess clientele, the idea that, to have people from the public, or is this for hotel guests only, or how's this work? If I wanted to book that conference room for a meeting, because we're pretty short of conference room space in town here, so the idea, if I wanted to do that as a member of the public, could I do that?
Yes.
Okay.
You could request our boardroom and or our great room here for conferences, yes.
Okay.
But remember that a lot of times your mid-scale brands will restrict the size of a boardroom that you can have. For instance, we just converted a Comfort Inn and Suites in Chula Vista to a Holiday Inn Express. We actually had 3 different divisible rooms there as conference rooms, and I had to actually close one of the conference rooms to shrink it down to Holiday Inn Express standards. And they have a maximum number of square feet you could have for the number of rooms. So there's maximums as well as minimums, and surprising to most people.
No, you're talking inside baseball on that one. I have no idea why you would do that, so that's fine. Now, I'm going to move approval.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Thank you. Councilmember Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is wonderful. You said it yourself. You said you wanted to move with Oceanside's improvements, and this is a great partnership that we have with the private sector. This is great that you would, move with us, and that's pretty fantastic. To make rooms larger instead of increasing the number of rooms and making them maybe smaller to try to fit more people, and then getting even more parking. This is pretty great.
Thank you. Now, just to be clear, we did not increase the number of parking places. We kept the same number of parking places. We have a lot of parking. And we kept the same number of parking, so the ratio...
Yeah, the ratio.
Reduced the number of units. The ratio went up, not the number of parking places.
And serving breakfast and all the upgrades, having an exercise room, that's fantastic.
Now, I might put a plug in, though. The City of Oceanside has a standard, I believe, of 1.2 parking places per unit, and we're well in excess of that. But let me say that all other cities that I'm aware of in San Diego are typically 1 per unit. And we even find that even at 1 per unit at other hotels are more than sufficient. We have done studies here at the Motel 6, and when we were full, even with only 106 rooms, we had 128 parking places, I believe. We had at least 28 empties every night that we were full. And so our worst case is 28 empties. There's room for additional growth on this site. And we might want to come back sometime in the future.
Yeah.
You never know.
Great.
To maybe propose additional building here, maybe more units.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor Feller.
But then you might not have enough parking for 1-to-1 if you had on not,
I don't think I'd want to go down below 1-to-1. Our studies indicate about a 0.95 is what we actually use.
Well,
as ratio, but
maybe that's something we can consider for the next hotel you build. Yeah. That was a dirt lot, wasn't it, Shan?
Yes. That was Mayor Feller. That was a dirt lot, 2-acre size dirt lot at one time.
Yeah, they had a lot of sleeping overnight there then too.
We accommodated some.
A lot different clientele.
it was a bit of a rough neighborhood when we built, yeah. I was surprised at a lot of the paraphernalia we found on the site.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate what you've done here and what you continue to do, so keep coming back. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Feline, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to comment that, that's great that you're bringing this project forward. And I just wanted to thank you for your vote of confidence in the city of Oceanside and our future, that you would move forward with this project and, help create jobs and more opportunity in, the middle of a recession. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. With that, while you're still standing there, can we vote, please?
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
Madam Clerk, I'd like to move to 25. We want to get some of these rowdies out of the audience.
Item 25 is introduction of an ordinance of the Council of the City of Oceanside amending Chapter 35 of the Oceanside City Code regarding taxi cabs, adoption of a resolution repealing Resolution 11-R0668-1, and any amendments and confirming business license administration fee amounts, removing taxi cab companies from Category 2, and adoption of a resolution establishing a fee schedule for taxi cab operators and establishing an automatic annual increase for taxi cab service rates based on the published Annual Consumer Price Index Urban for San Diego County.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. As Mayor, I'll open this public hearing. Request disclosures, please, starting with the Deputy Mayor.
I've had staff in contact with Yellow Cab. I think that's the only contact I've had.
I've had staff and Yellow Cab as well.
Same.
Staff, I did meet with staff and with Yellow Cab representatives.
Yeah, same. I met with staff and Oceanside Transportation Company.
Thank you very much. With that, Madam Clerk, correspondence, petitions?
We received an email from Stephen Craig Thompson of Craig's Cabs agreeing with deregulation, and I'll give council copies of that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. With that, I see oh, you're hidden now. I said you were there. Mr. Sherwood, thank you very much. I lost you behind the podium.
I'm losing weight. Good evening, Mayor, honorable council members. Michael Sherwood, Chief Information Officer. We basically looked at the current ordinance, which was originally drafted, last changes, I believe, in 1982. It was revised again several years ago, but was never really updated for current business structures and basically ease of operation. So we went with a few goals in revising the ordinance. One was for a simplified and open licensing process, making it easier for applicants to apply and have annual renewals. Flexible business structure accommodations to include different types away from a franchise structure and into different types of business models such as a co-op or other types of approved business structures. Our main focus was improving customer safety and service, mandating, part of that included mandating fire extinguishers, the ability of every cab that's a license to operate in the city able to take and use credit cards, global positioning to ensure speedy dispatching, as well as again, safety. Age of the vehicle must be under 7 years of age from the model year. Additionally, we wanted to ensure that the companies operating here had protection, including their company name and color scheme, which couldn't be used by competitors or other agencies that are licensed within the city. Current with what the old ordinance had in it, but we reiterated it back into this ordinance. the fee structure, in your staff report, it goes into detail what the old fee structure was. This is the new fee structure, the application fee of $475 for the first year, a vehicle license fee of $165, and a vehicle inspection fee of $100. Upon the renewal in their year 2 of operation, their application fee would be $360, and then proportionately we'd be dropping the vehicle license fee and the inspection of the vehicle fee as well. We've tied the actual rates with the CPIU index of San Diego, basically allowing for, as the economy changes, the increase in rates to be automatic. And that allows basically flexibility in the marketplace. If the economy stays flat, the rates would stay flat. That really gives you a quick overview of what the major components are, really focusing in on safety and convenience for the residents and for tourists that come into the city. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I did have one in the ordinance itself on page 13. I made an error. It says on line 17, all taxi cabs operated by certificate holders shall be radio equipped. And I don't know how I said radio dispatched. It should say computer dispatched. I don't know how I did not see that, so I apologize. But on line 17 on page 13 of the ordinance, it should say radio equipped and computer dispatched.
Thank you. Mike, will you introduce sidebar, please, when you have a seat? Who you got with you? When you have a seat, could you introduce your staff over here so we all know who's at the sidebar?
Rajas. She was administrative analyst that helped me gather with information. And then City Attorney's Office at Parkland.
Good evening. Thank you.
Graziosi.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
Got his last name in, so.
Okay. Yeah, well, he's got the big smile going, so we appreciate that. Madam Clerk?
This is a public hearing. If anyone wishes to come forward and speak on this item, you may go to both podiums. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor.
Pull that mic up. You're too tall.
I'm sorry. Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council, City Attorney, and City Manager. It's actually the first time I had the opportunity of meeting you. I'd like to start off by just saying first that this has been, unfortunately, I feel take some blame. This has been a 20-month project. I started this back in January 2010, and we're finishing it hopefully tonight. But I want to say also that Michael and his wonderful assistant were tremendous. I've never saw somebody from staff learn the taxi cab business as fast as they did. And I'm hoping, because I have no idea what you're going to do, that after this project's over, I'm hoping that he stays involved in taxi cabs in the city of Oceanside. I agree with everything. I had a bunch of questions. I had a whole bunch of different things here, but I'm a little bit nervous, like changing jobs. I'm used to the franchise agreement and speaking to the city council and telling them my feelings, and now I'm going to a new structure. But I feel confident after speaking with Michael that he tried to keep me calm and said, don't worry about anything. So I agree with everything that's going on. I'm making an assumption that the existing 2 cab companies in the city will come in based on the fact that I have over 40 cabs in the city license now that will start off as year 2 and not year 1, because we've already been here since over 80 years. Matter of fact, I've been involved with the city since 1983. I've seen a lot of different people sitting up in that chair. So I'm assuming as this company is coming in, we're coming in as a renewal for year 2 going forward, not year 1 as a new applicant. That's really cost prohibitive. The one thing I want to add and explain why this is good. We have 4 wheelchair accessible vehicles in the city, brand new, 2012. And I want to put in where you have a 10, I would like the city to put in, where you have a 10 cab minimum, with one of those 10 being a wheelchair vehicle, accessible vehicle. Now you're going to say, why? In all the years that I've been here, and I bought this company in 2004. I worked for it for many years, but I bought it in 2004. You have nobody, because I don't see any one cabs in here. So nobody's come in because it's very hard to make a living in this city with one cab. It's very hard, it's actually an oxymoron to think that you're going to bring one cab in and put in computerized dispatching and have GPS. That's not going to happen. There's nobody that's going to do that. However, by having the 10 and having for the first time in this city a cooperative, you'll see people that will come in and join and be a part owner in Yellow Cab, because now they can buy one cab and be part, and they can make a living, which they can't now as one cab. So this city, and I'll say this, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, has been a very tough city regarding taxi cab ordinances. You were the first city in this entire county, back when it wasn't even heard of, to have $1 million worth of insurance. No other city had it. It went from you to the airport, from the airport to Escondido, worked its way down North County. The county, with the help to me of Ron Roberts, got this to be passed by the county, and now the city of San Diego also changed to $1 million. So you started this, which is a good thing, because I think $1 million is just about the right amount of money regarding taxi cabs. You were the only city in this whole county regarding having a franchise agreement. And that weeded out the people you don't want here. And I'm not going to start mentioning different cities in North County, but if you look at the other cities in North County, they're waiting for you or Michael or you to pass this ordinance and get a copy of it. They want to change from what they have, because what they have is a bunch of single cabs. And if you want to see a whole bunch of cabs single lined up at the train station, that's what you're going to see. We do all the calls.
You have to wind it down. Your time's up.
Well, I'll finish. If you have any questions, I'm hoping that you add the 10 vehicles, one being a wheelchair-accessible vehicles, based on me buying 4, and I'll buy more as time goes on, and I'll also buy alternate fuel vehicles. So if you have any questions, I'll respond to you. If not, I'll sit down.
Sir, could you state your name for the record,
I'm
please?
sorry, Anthony Palmieri.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please have a seat and we'll go forward. This is a public hearing. You need your name and address, and thank you.
Hello, I'm Jenny Oakson. I live in 1255 Cynthia Lane in Carlsbad, and I own Coastal Cab. We are not currently serving Oceanside, but we would like to. We have 6 cabs. We do not have 10. We have cars from 2002. We do not have them 7 years or newer, but we get calls consistently from Oceanside. It is my belief that there is a need for our service here just because of our regular customers. And having several people in my life be victims of drunk driving, I don't want to put my regulars at risk where or my drivers are taking someone to Oceanside and they don't have a way to get back. I don't want to infuse Oceanside with any more traffic. I know that's a big concern for you guys, but we do get consistent calls. And I think if there was some sort of compromise in the middle where it's not a complete, you have to have 10 or more, you have to have a certain number, I think that if we meet the Sheriff's Department's qualifications for hiring, we meet your insurance standards, we're willing to pay the fees, and our drivers are screened, which again, the Sheriff's Department will absolutely validate, vehicles are inspected. I think there's a lot more business in Oceanside for small business cab companies. And that's all I'm going to put in. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this item?
Madam Clerk, I see none. I'll close the public hearing and come back to the council, if I may. I'm going to jump in early, if you don't mind, because I had some questions mainly. The issue of having more than one cab company came up, remember about a year ago. We had Yellow Cab, now we have 724 black and white. I wanted to make sure there was a need to have more cabs in Oceanside. We are a military town, we're a transit town, we're a tourist town. We do that, and the decision was made to have 2 of them here in Oceanside. I guess my point, and I'm going to tell everybody here and on TV or watching, what I don't want is I don't want, like a lot of other big cities where you go in town, there's more cabs than you can count. different types of cabs, colors of cabs, etc. And I also know companies that generally don't have a fleet, let's say 10 or more, tend to line up and park in front of the busy spots. They line up and just rotate through. I really don't want that. I don't want that, the big city image of Oceanside. I want somebody that's a competent cab company, whoever that might be. With that, and talking to staff, I had a couple of issues I wanted to find. I'm going to support some of this, but I would like to see some changes if possible. And I'm saying it for the rest of the council can listen to it. I certainly do like the idea of a 10 cab minimum. That's me, the 10 cab minimum, with the fact that at least one of those is going to be ADA compliant wheelchair. This is a senior community. We have a lot of people who want transportation that need special aid and special equipment. So I do like that, and generally larger companies have that. More cabs have the ability to have some there. That doesn't mean that I don't think cab companies aren't good that have less. I'm just saying bigger ones seem to have better equipment and bigger equipment. So that's one. The other one is, in our town, we see the yellow cab has their drivers being part of the company. That's their cab. They use it. I think the drivers need a business license under the Category 1 for independent contractors. I do think that's nice because the companies, like we say, have here that. I didn't see anything in compliance with SB 1519. Maybe, Mike, you can answer that question in a second. And the other one is that I'm not pushing it, but I'd like to see cab companies and everybody else going to alternate fuel vehicles in the future. I'm not pushy on it, but I certainly in the future would like to see it moving that way for the Clean Air Act that we see around here. I guess those, you maybe want to answer some of those and see if that's it. I want to move forward. I think everybody has the right to have something and be a business in our town. But I found out that we have stopped citing cabs in Oceanside for violation of having a city business license for the time being. Why we're changing this around and see if we fit into all the other counties, the other cities, and what they have. So I know there for a while we had a company that was trying to get a cab license here in Oceanside, and I won't mention the name, but a while back, and they seemed to violate every policy we have before they came here to get a license. So I'm assuming that's the case that we might run into if we don't start enforcing some of our regulations in town and have some guidelines there that says certain things are possible. With that, I'm going to hear from the rest of the council members.
Is that a motion, Mayor?
Well, I would like to make a motion on it, but I still want to hear from staff.
I'll second your motion.
I'll have a motion in a second, but I still want to hear from everybody. With that, Mike, do you want to address some of my concerns, if you would?
Honorable Mayor, let me break them down here one by one. On the business license issue, Category 1 versus Category 2, that has been, every driver that comes into the city and operates a cab is required to have a business license. In the ordinance you're looking at is what the corporation would pay, which would be the $475 and then per vehicle. Every driver still requires a business license. It would be, while we're repealing it from the ordinance, the current ordinance, they would still have a standard city business license. They would come in and apply for one. That's part of the process where we ensure that they have a sheriff's or a county permit to drive. That ensures that that driver has gone through the county processes and is allowed to drive within the city of Oceanside, or within the county of San Diego, specifically within our city. So the business license is required per driver. On the SB 1519, there's several components to that. There's an enforcement piece and there's other components. There will be, every cab that is authorized in the city will be granted a sticker. I don't want to call it a medallion because that confuses things, but it's a placard that would go on the vehicle itself. Additionally, they would be assigned a overall number for their agency, which they would be used in advertising or anything that would state their name. As far as any enforcement, we felt that really should be an administrative directive set through by the city manager manager that handles enforcement or any type of operation. We did not include that in the ordinance, as all the ordinances we looked at throughout Southern California regarding cabs, none of them, we wouldn't want to be precedent setting and adding that into our ordinance when it's not included in other ordinances throughout the region. So we believe through general administration, administrative directive or management directive, those issues could be addressed. Now, hopefully that answers. As far as the cab limit, that's more of a council policy.
I realize that
decision.
we were talking about 10 cab minimum type thing. That's a council directive, not every, but I also didn't want to have 43 different cabs in town, each one of them having one cab parked at the train station.
Mayor, part of what we've set in guidelines of having a computer-aided dispatching system and having other mandates would make it so generally a one cab company probably wouldn't be able to afford those mechanisms. What the number is, if it's 2 or 3 or 10, that's something that that's what the free market would sort of, this is an open free market approach. I don't know what the costs of each company are for their services, for what dispatching costs them, what their computers would cost them, where their break-even point is. So as far as a number, there is no number in the current ordinance. It's free market, it's open. But we're hoping some of those things that we have in there we would consider would be barriers that would make sure that a reputable company would come into the city and be able to operate, requiring if they have to have a credit card machine, requiring if they have to have computerized dispatching, and so forth.
Well, I see cab companies from out of the area come in here to drop off. And they drop off if they can't pick up. But we had a problem with certain cab companies that were dropping off, then in turn picking up fares in our town. I know it's enforcement aspect of it, but I found out that companies that had more cabs and potentially more drivers seem to regulate them a lot better and not have problems. I don't know. That's why I'm concerned. We're starting down the path. I don't want to find out we're having problems with multiple cabs in Oceanside. The young lady that spoke, she has 4, 5, 6, but doesn't make it to 10. I think that's an issue that we might want to address on numbers, but with that, I thank you, and I'm going to turn, of course, to my city manager and ask for your input on any of this. I brought up some issues and concerns. Do you have any of them?
Mayor, council members, the issue of the minimum number of cabs is solely up to you.
I realize
and the issue of enforcement, we do not have an active enforcement program, nor would we have the ability to do a proactive enforcement program, simply because we don't have the resources. If we want to add that, we certainly could, but then we would have to look at some type of a cost recovery system where we would add an additional surcharge to the cab permits to recover those costs, to add a dedicated, and I don't think it would be a full-time, but a dedicated enforcement person to enforce the cab provisions.
I appreciate that, and thank you. That was some of my concerns of the council, and take it from there, and always can modify it if there's a problem, but I thought some of those were important. With that, Councilmember Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do support the 10 cab minimum, with one being ADA compliant. I have actually used cabs for many years in different cities, and being alone and a woman in a big city, you really have to be able to pick up the phone and rely on that cab getting there. And one of the things that I see as abuses are the cabs come in and they only go to certain places like the hotels. This is San Francisco. Last year when I went to the League of California Cities, I decided to find a cheaper hotel room to save money. And in fact, going from and thought, okay, I'll just start walking down Van Ness, and before I hit Market, I'm sure I'm going to get a cab. No, hell no. I basically, got passed on, tried calling, couldn't get through, and then when I got to the meeting, on the way back, I was thinking, how the heck am I going to flag a cab? Because there was no way to flag a cab. I realized that I could go to a hotel and get in line with the patrons of the hotel, and that's how I was going to get a cab. So that is a very difficult way for a consumer. And now, City of Oceanside is not San Francisco, but excuse me, but these are the kind of issues that come up here as well. We deserve our community, our residents deserve specific quality in terms of feeling that they're going to call, they're going to get a cab to get there within 15, 20 minutes, whatever is, considered a good response time. And whether or not we have an enforcement team set up, we're going to get the calls, Mayor, like we have before, complaining, hey, you've got this cab, and they dumped me in this place, or I saw this cab and they wouldn't stop. Our community, our residents deserve a good quality cab service. I understand that we're going from basically our old franchise to this notion of a cooperative, and I think we still need to have these kind of safety things included. I strongly support the 10 cab minimum. I think that, especially having one of them being ADA compliant, the idea of having a business license, the GPS, so that, the closest one to the call will be responding to that call, and alternative fuel source over time. And I don't know what staff would suggest over time, maybe within 5 years, what would be something appropriate. Do you have some suggestion about how long, say, other cities? Because I think San Diego is actually already going to alternative fuel. Do you have a suggestion of what would be something appropriate, within 5 years?
Way before that. We have 35 Priuses in San Diego. We've stayed away from CNG because there's no quasi infrastructure that a cab driver can get back from wherever he's going. I'm ready to start putting him in here next year, especially with a cooperative, because that's going to be something that a cab driver would want to own based on the price of gas.
Right.
So they're doing it now. They're doing it whatever they mandated at the airport, but city cabs in San Diego, not just me, they're all putting in Priuses because the drivers just can't afford the fuel.
Thank you very much. Staff, would it be, 5 years is too long? Some people are already set up that way within a year or 2 years. Is that something?
I would say it's really at the council's discretion as to when they wanted to implement it. I wouldn't be able to offer timeline.
Well, I'd say 2 years or less then. Also, I know during the meeting with representatives from Yellow Cab, I actually got a pretty good education too about what other cities are doing, and other cities seem to have a specific time period for applying, and that I believe was something like January, picking a month, like the beginning of the year, January, apply for this in January, and that way, there's this notice, and when you could apply for getting your cabs in Oceanside. So I think that would be a good thing to do as well, so that we can anticipate it, have a staff for that, and then we know that we're done after January. So 10 cab minimum with 1 ADA, the business license. GPS is already included in here, but I want to make sure that the closest one is the one that's going to be responding, and that they have the ability, computer ability to respond. I don't want to see them all at the train station, and I don't want to see them all at just the hotels. I want to be able, I want our residents to be able to call and get a cab, especially our seniors who are going to the doctors, and be able to feel like they're going to get a good response and good service. I appreciate the service that we've had all these years, and that's why I'm supporting the mayor's motion along with these other items.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fullingham, please.
Thank you. I guess we're all trying to learn a lot about the taxi cab business here, and I guess kind of the approach I want to take to this ordinance is I don't want excessive regulation to be used as a way to stop legitimate competition. We wouldn't want IBM to have stopped Apple, or United Airlines to have stopped Southwest. It's big industry players sometimes use government to stop small players from providing competition, and I want to make sure the regulation isn't used for that purpose. Also, I do support the concept of we want some threshold to have credible companies, who are going to provide a legitimate level of service, and that they, as they apply to the city, that they have the likelihood and probability of being, long-term participants in our market. I also think it's important for the benefit of the companies that go through this process and, are basically following the rules, that they have some assurance that the city is going to do its part, since we're charging money and we're demanding things of them, that we're also going to enforce our ordinances against people who are sneaking in and, undercutting illegitimately, the prices, that need to be charged by legitimate operators. And so I think that's only fair, that if we're expecting the, legitimate companies to get in line and give us money, that we have an obligation to provide the enforcements of our ordinances against the people who are breaking those rules. So with those three rules in mind, I'd like to address some of the questions that came up. One was the issue for the existing companies who are servicing our residents. Does the year 2 fees apply to them, or is everyone expected to go through the new applicant process based on this new ordinance?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Feline, it's my interpretation, and I have the attorneys both to tell me if I'm right or wrong here, but I believe that you are repealing the current ordinance, or the resolution repeals the current ordinance, the new ordinance comes in, and that would start, everybody would apply in a year 1 status. So everybody would be fresh in year 1, they would apply.
We have existing franchise holders, though, so those existing franchises are not, in my understanding, is not going to be wiped out if this new ordinance is in place. But as I understand it, Yellow Cab is going to be applying for a new certificate under the new ordinance, and that's one of the reasons why this ordinance is in front of you to begin with, because of their new business model. So they will be hit with the new applicant fees, at least the way that this is structured right now. But it's not my understanding that the other licensed cab company would be hit with the new fees in year 1. But we can clarify now. I will say, as an aside, that in order to implement the changes that you've identified, we will have to redraft this ordinance and bring it back to you for reintroduction. We will not be able to take action on it tonight, but we could address that issue about the application of the fees in the redraft.
Okay, my other question, or one more question, dealt with the age of the cars. How was 7 years picked as the threshold for, basically car age?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Feline, through research and through other ordinances throughout the state, in addition to meeting with current franchise holders within the city regarding questions about their fleet, what they felt was an age of an appropriate year, as well as through other cities throughout the region. So it was an average number that was, some cities are higher, some are lower. We went in the middle of the road and chose 7 years.
Okay. I'd be interested in asking the woman who's here from the 6 cab company, if permitted here. Other than the age of the cars that you mentioned, does your company meet all the other requirements we have in terms of the computerized dispatch, the $1 million insurance, and
yes, on the insurance, but no, we are not computerized dispatch. We use cell phone radios.
Okay, and I guess what I'm trying to get my arms around here is basically the number of cars a company would have to, basically, one, make a profit, because that's what they want to do, but meet the threshold that we're looking at. And since you seem to operate at 6, would you, with 6 cars, assuming you had them less than 7 years, would you be making a profit with 6 cars?
The drivers lease their vehicles, so I get paid a lump sum just for them to lease it to work. And again, that's going back to the business license for each individual driver. I'm a cab driver as well as an owner-operator. And, you know, of course, I don't have to pay my lease, but it helps when you're getting calls to be able to pick up people who are calling you. I'm not talking out of turn when I say there are little small rides that a bigger company won't pick up. They're smaller, and you know, I want to be able to take your elderly population to the drugstore, even if it's a $5 ride. These are the kind of rides that I think are getting neglected with the two companies in place now. But to get back to the 7 years and the 10 minimum and the computer dispatching, no, I'm a small business. We use cell phones. I am planning to have my 2004 Prius, my personal vehicle, put on as a cab as well, but even a 2004 Prius would be too old for what you have set before you.
Okay, now what's the difference between the dispatch system you have versus the computerized GPS one that we're talking about in our ordinance?
All of our cars have GPS, but our dispatch system is just over a radio, over a Nextel. One of those, you know, chirps.
Okay, I guess to our staff then, why would that system not be acceptable, and why do we want to have our model that we're asking for?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Feline, the computerized dispatching approach is to provide a high level of service to tourists and to citizens of Oceanside to ensure that, almost like computer-aided dispatching would be, where you get the closest fire or police vehicle to your need, we want to ensure that tourists or citizens have the closest available cab for their need, so they're not waiting for an extreme length of time to get service. And so, again, the dispatching or computerization component was to aid in that process, to ensure that we had a baseline service level for the entire community.
Okay, and then thank you very much, ma'am. The other issue that's brought up is whether or not our disabled community is going to be adequately serviced under this ordinance, and having ADA wheelchair compliance as part of the taxi cab ordinance. How is that community currently being served?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Feline, through a variety of sources, currently the current ordinance and franchise holders are not obligated to provide any ADA compliant cabs. In the new ordinance, again, we did not add that component to that. We figured from the perspective of the open market, if there was clientele calling into the companies would provide that service. We didn't change or deviate as we wrote and drafted the new ordinance. There are several services out there, different types. I'm not 100% aware of all the different vehicle or service providers out there that provide the other TCP card. Oh, okay, now I get what you're saying. They're basically like rent for like a hire, like I don't want like there's Cloud9. There's all other types of hired out vehicles that are available, or services that are medical, mobile, so forth, but not. We didn't do anything with ADA within the current taxi cab guidelines that you have in front of you.
Now, when we say ADA compliant, does that mean then that the car is fixed up in a way that it can still be used for non-disabled fares, or does the modifications to the car basically mean that it's only usable for wheelchair? Or
I would answer briefly, and I'd let probably the industry knows actually more about their vehicle modifications than I do. But from a quick perspective, most conversions are able to be dual use. The seat either lifts up and it has ability to lock in place, and if there's not an ADA compliant fare, they put the seat down and they're able to use it for
usable for wheelchair, or
I would answer briefly, and I'd let probably the industry knows actually more about their vehicle modifications than I do. But from a quick perspective, most conversions are able to be dual use. The seat either lifts up and it has ability to lock in place, and if there's not an ADA compliant fare, they put the seat down and they're able to use it for a regular fare that did not need those accommodations. But I'd let the industry, if they wanted to.
If I may ask our
how the modifications work.
Yellow Cab on this.
I'd like to help you on a few issues. One, the 7-year rule has been in effect since 1983, so this is not something, you've always had 7 years. Okay. Every car had to be 7 years old in this city since I've been here in 1983. Two, when you talk about navigation systems, and I'm just trying to correct what you believe is correct, we're talking about a GPS system with navigation regarding the calls that come in go to the cab by GPS that's closest to the house. Mm-hmm. That is different than having a navigation system on the window where you put in the address of where the house is going to. Right. And that's I'm assuming, based because I know she doesn't have GPS that I'm talking about that's in this ordinance. So, Oh, I know I'm right. I've been doing this for 30 years. So that is the difference between that. So on the ADA is not required by taxi cabs. The ADA exempts taxi cabs. So unless there's a rule put in by yous, like LA has 2% of the fleet. So if you have in LA, they have all large franchises, 700 cabs, 500 cabs, 400 cabs, which all compete against each other. But they have to have 2% for ADA and 2%, actually it's 5% on alternate fuel vehicles, which is a requirement. The airport of San Diego is requiring all cars to be in over a 7-year period to be alternate fuel vehicles. So we put those in because we wanted to put them in. A driver does not make money driving an ADA taxi cab. And they can pick up because it takes a lot longer. They have to be certified. So they have a document saying they've been certified on how to handle somebody in a wheelchair. They have to put the ramp down, put them in, lock them in, take them to the destination, lock them out, take them, because most cab drivers, including mine, regular cab drivers, they just take their fare, take their money, and they take off and they go to their next call. They don't get out of the cab. So it takes 5 minutes of work on a regular cab drive to get your money or do the credit card. It takes 15 to 20 minutes, and you just can't leave a person in the wheelchair on the curb. You've got to make sure that they get to their house. So that is, and we subsidize these drivers so that they can make additional money, because where the regular driver might be doing 10 to 12 calls a day, if they're only doing ADA, they're doing 5 to 7 calls a day. But when they don't have an ADA, they are no different than any other regular taxi cab. Based on their positioning, they'll get a call by the GPS.
Okay. Now, when you buy a taxi cab, what's the cost difference between having a regular cab versus an ADA compliant cab?
$42,000 for an ADA certified van. I have 4 2012s. As the mayor knows, I got help on those because I went through the Freedom Act and I applied. Some people in this room gave me letters of recommendation. I still had to pay. I had to paint them. I had to get them all ready. I had to get the driver trained to be certified, and we are now doing all that. Even though we're in Oceanside and all 4 cabs are located in Oceanside, we still have to deal with North County Transit District, and they're calling us. And truthfully, like I said, I have to subsidize the driver because he goes all the way down to whatever city he's going. He's here. He might have to go to Carlsbad, take somebody in a wheelchair going to a doctor's appointment, which is 3 miles. They don't make any money on that, especially in the van, because the van's heavy because of the wheelchair accessible vehicle aspect of it, they don't get great gas mileage. So it's a major expense, and that's how it works. Unless you, the city, say today, tomorrow, that you want to have 2% of whoever comes. That's why I picked the number 10. So, okay, so you're going to have 2% of 10, and that just means 1. If you're going to have wheelchair accessible vehicles, or you're going to have alternate fuel vehicles. And I want to say to Councilwoman Sanchez, because I honestly thought, I was under the impression, and I'm looking at Michael, that based on the one item, which was going to 10 with an act, that still could have been written in today without coming back. I've been waiting 20 months. I have a license that I paid for a cooperative. I'm paying everything I have to on that, and I have no cars in my cooperative. I will promise you at this dais, you will get your alternate fuel vehicles without putting it into any rules. Like you have the 4 wheelchair accessible vehicles, but I really, Mr. Mullen, don't want to come back again if it's only one item. I was under the impression and told that if it's just one item, it could be passed here and added. But the other items,
I'm asking you.
Well, actually, the motion included 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 additional changes. 1, to require a business license. The 10 total cabs with 1 ADA compliant. Fuel efficiency requirements for alternative energy applications only being accepted in January. If I understood correctly, I didn't expressly hear that as part of your motion. It was mentioned as part of the second, so I was going to raise that as a question. But at least in Councilmember Sanchez's inquiry, I heard at least 5 changes, and my recommendation is this needs to be rewritten and reintroduced.
But for the record, I was told this morning, and if I'm wrong, Michael, you correct me, the business license requirement, you have in there, you show a beauty parlor, and every stall that's rented out to a beautician has to have a business license. I went over with that with Michael this morning on the phone before coming here. That's why I didn't make that an issue, that it's already in there, and I'm under the impression that all drivers must have it based on the existing laws, and I didn't have to bring that up, and I'm not sure why the mayor brought it up, but if I'm wrong, you please tell them I'm lying to you. But I'm under the impression of that. So the only thing I came here to say is to accept the existing law and to put the 10 cab minimum with the ADA vehicle. And if that was all we were doing, I was under the impression, again, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, that could be done here. I don't want to come back again. I got to get this thing rolling. I've been waiting 20 months. 20 months to put this in, and I'll do all these things. I'm putting PIMs in the back of the tank.
Well, if there's going to be changes in this particular thing, he's required to bring it back. I understand it. I've added some stipulations I liked. Councilmember Esther Sanchez also made some potential changes I thought would be good for the citizens of Oceanside and the city itself, and getting some things documented in there. Just changing one thing about, quote, the 10 minimum with one of those being ADA. Even if we only do that one thing, it still has to come back. Is that correct?
You know, if you make that's my recommendation, because this has to be rewritten, and it's very difficult to rewrite an ordinance on the dais. So, but there are certainly, the council, the motion before you, as I understand it, includes much more than the one item. I understand what the speaker has indicated, but the council's motion at this point includes at least 5 changes. So,
well, sir, I guess I would.
That's the case, and then we'll have to await the decision of how the council wants to proceed.
Well,
but
sir,
if we wanted to move forward with those, my recommendation is to rewrite it and bring it back.
I would say the same, sir. I know you don't want that, but like I say, it's going to be up to the entire council if they agree to it. They may not even agree some of the changes, but I'm trying to put things in there that benefit the city of Oceanside. I'm not trying to delay things. I think it's for our citizens. As the councilwoman said, and myself and other people, we're going to make sure we have an ordinance that makes sure that Oceanside, not the whole county, has the best service we can possibly get from whoever. And some of those changes in there that I was bringing up, if Senate Bill 19, whatever I had here, is not necessary, and then that's fine. The other things we brought up about having licensed drivers, and especially on the co-ops, efficient fuel sometime down the road, 10 vehicles ADA compliant, and applicants really not doing it every month of the year to keep the staff from being busy picking a one time a year that you apply, are things that he has to rewrite and bring back. I can make recommendations that with a short period of time to come back.
Thank you. That was my last thing I would have said.
That's possible, but like I say, it takes some time to rewrite it and have it done and be back probably within 30 days.
Thank you very much.
I did want to mention one other thing, and even if you accepted the staff recommendation tonight, it's not adopted. You'd simply be reintroducing it. The resolution for the fees could be effective today, but even if you accepted staff recommendation, you'd still have a subsequent meeting where this would have to be voted upon.
Thank you. With that, sir. Thank you.
I'm still moving on here. Yeah.
I'm just about to say, where was I? You're still up.
Still on the floor. Yeah, I guess my question, though, I didn't get my issue on the cost. You mentioned the ADA vehicles cost about $42,000, and how does that compare to a regular cab?
Right now, most of the cars that are taxi cabs in this city and in the rest of the city are ex-CHP cars, not police cars, CHP cars. So they run anywhere, 2008, 2009, they run about $8,000 to $10,000 in that range.
Okay, so we're talking a $30,000 roughly premium.
If you're buying a new one, yes,
Right.
2012.
Yes, okay. Okay, and then what percentage of your business requires ADA compliant vehicles?
We just got those. They've been in service maybe 4 months. But between your senior center, between North County NCTV or NCTV,
Transit Center,
between them, between calls coming from Mesquite, because they do know about it, they're busy. I mean, nobody waits. And the big thing between ADA in a taxi cab versus, and this young lady mentioned Super Shuttle, there's nothing cheaper than a taxi cab, and that's why we have to subsidize that. So these are people that get a service at a very cheap price, versus if they call up the Red Cross, anybody that comes in another car to pick them up is a lot more expensive than a taxi cab. And it's not something the industry likes doing. Like I said, drivers don't want to do that. So we subsidize them so that they do that.
Okay, yeah, because it seems to me that thank you. It seems to me that the regulations that we have in terms of the dispatching, the insurance, the requiring of the credit cards, all create enough of a barrier of entry that there's not going to be tiny 1 and 2 cab companies coming into the city legally, and that, I don't think it's the job of the city to pick a specific number. I mean, if someone can make it work with 9 or 8 taxis, that's not really, I don't think the job of the city to decide. I think, the approach we've taken will provide a high enough level of service that, that's going to require a certain number of cabs to make that work, and I don't think there's any magic with number 10. Also, I'm open to the opinions of my colleagues here. I don't think that ADA compliant cabs are going to constitute 10% of the cab company's business, and so I don't think it's unrealistic to impose a $30,000 cost differential on a company that's trying to get started. But I do think if big companies are going to provide a service that in effect is subsidized by other services, that should be factored in some way with the application fee. It's basically, are you going to have ADA compliant vehicles or are you not, and maybe there should be some difference in terms of the fee that they're being charged to offset the fact that other companies are providing that service. I'm open to the thoughts of my colleagues on that. The other issue is that, of course, if these services are available through other types of companies, and whether or not that's completely free market or subsidized through government grants or fees or taxes, that I'd just like to get more comfortable with. Maybe the issue in terms of the urgency of getting the ordinance to move forward, I would be interested in the industry representative opinions, but maybe it's better to start with what we have here, and the items that are being debated don't seem to be a big part or worth holding up the meat of the ordinance that's been developed already. I guess the other thing in terms of what's been discussed, I would be real skeptical at this point of imposing, different fuel standards and things like that. That's basically, these alternative energy sources become efficient when the market requires it. We've just had too many fiascos, starting with corn-based ethanol, that just turn out to be government subsidies for corporate welfare, based on the latest fad and gimmick, that's going through the political world. And so I don't think the city of, Oceanside should be trying to impose whatever its own version is going to be of that. I think as alternative energy becomes efficient, through natural gas or, battery-operated vehicles or hybrids, when the market provides that as the most efficient way, then private companies will naturally gravitate towards that. And Oceanside, is too small of a city to try and be imposing its own energy policy, on the auto world there. So, I think my recommendation, especially plus what we heard from the city attorney and the need to have to come back in effect for a third time if we're going to be amending the ordinance, I think we ought to be adopting the ordinance as it exists, get it going so the cooperative can move forward, which I think is the primary thrust of what we're trying to accomplish. All these other items seem kind of incendiary, but the one thing I would like that I think I would also want to commit that we're going to find some way to enforce our ordinance against people trying to undercut it, because our existing law-abiding companies need to have the support they need in providing good service by making sure that they're not going to be undercut illegally. And it seems to me that having fines and occasional enforcement should provide a self-financing way to, basically scare off some of the poachers. And the other thought is I don't see a justification for only having an application only in the month of January. Businesses, if you decide you want to form a taxi company, and you're in March, you shouldn't have to wait for 9 months to get your business up and going. The cost is the cost, and I think the cost and the time is the same in January as it would be in July. So that doesn't seem to convince me of any need to go for that. So I guess we have to vote on the mayor's motion first, but depending on how that goes, I would certainly vote to pass the existing ordinance, and let's address these other issues. Actually, before I go, and I apologize, my understanding in talking with staff is the issue of business licenses and compliance with SB 1519 really isn't necessary to include in the ordinance, because of course state law you're already required to comply with, and people are already required to get business licenses or driver's licenses as needed separate from this ordinance. Is that not correct?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Feline, every business within the city, you are to have a business license. You would be operating illegally without a business license. We're talking the driver here. We're not talking, the ordinance covers the application process for which the company or the entity is being licensed. So there's that component, which is in the ordinance, and then there's the independent driver who comes in and obtains a business license. The SB issues, those we recommend be handled through, since it's not no ordinances that we've been able to find have had that language included in it. We believe that running it or handling it through an administrative directive is the best, or management directive is the best way to handle those particular issues and not being included in the ordinance.
Well, I guess my thoughts are I would not be planning on supporting the current motion, and I think it's best to get this ordinance in place to help the companies put together their co-op plan, and these other items can be addressed as a revision later and without holding up the 99% of what we're trying to go. But those are just my thoughts. Thank you.
Councilmember Kern, please.
Thank you. I think, actually the first question I have is to the city attorney. If we give our suggested changes to this ordinance tonight and it passes, it can come back without going through a public hearing?
It's not, could it come back as a non-public hearing? Is that your question?
Yes.
If we make the revisions? Yes.
Okay, so we won't have to go through this again and the brain damage that we're going through right now.
It would come through as an introduction of an ordinance.
Okay, good. Oh, good. And that's within the normal time frame. And we would have to normally do that anyway. First of all, I have to apologize to the press back there because I looked at the agenda tonight and we were kind of speculating how long it would last, and I said we'd be out here by 7:30. Evidently, I'm wrong.
Councilmember Kern, can I clarify one thing? The reason for the public hearing is the adoption of the fees in part as well. And so if we are deferring the adoption of the resolution for the fees, then yes, it would have to be a public hearing. If you adopt the fees tonight in anticipation of a future adoption, then no, you wouldn't need a public hearing in the future.
Okay, well, we'll see how we come out tonight on that particular thing. Some of the things I agree with Councilmember Feline, and some of them I do not. First of all, I don't think there should be a mandate for alternative fuels. I think the market's going to take care of that over a period of time. The idea that if we're looking at a fleet that's no older than 7 years, as time goes on, I knew that the new CARB mandates coming down from the federal government by 2025, everybody's going to get a bazillion gallons per mile anyway. You know, so the idea, I don't think that's something that needs to be done. And also the idea, if you're talking about alternative fuels for the ADA-equipped vehicles, which are heavier and more likely will have either diesel or gasoline engines in them, because I don't think the other ones would be practical at this time. You know, in 7 to 14 years, maybe that would be happening. To address one of Councilmember Feline's items, with going to the co-op agreement, and I called the chief administrator of taxi cabs in Los Angeles, and they have 9 co-ops, and I think out of 10 companies, and the 10th company is going co-op. So that affords the one person or two people to actually start a business within the framework of another business. I think that's one of the overarching things about this particular ordinance changes. It allows for a person to start a cab business. Unfortunately, Councilmember Feller can't do it because his car doesn't meet the 7-year rule anymore. On his Crown Vic doesn't quite make that anymore, so he's kind of aced out on that one. So I'm still kind of out there a little bit on the franchisee is year 1, year 2. I'm a little, I don't know how that's going to play out. I don't know how to address that. I think, and I think Mr. Sherwood addressed this, that the SB 1519 stuff can be done by administrative directive through the city manager's office. He can write whatever directive about 1519 outside of that ordinance. So I don't think we need to incorporate every little piece of information in 1519 into the ordinance itself, because it'd be administrative directives. And what happens is, over a period of time, and the people of the state have a lot of time on their hands apparently because they pass a lot of laws. So in the next 5 to 6 years, you're going to have more rules that come out about taxi cabs that we could probably address through administrative ordinances instead of trying to, or administrative directives versus come back and rewriting the ordinance. The 10 cab rule, I struggled with that too, and the ADA compliant rule. But I think to maintain a level of service for our community, I think that's a fair number, because we're talking a city of 42 square miles. We're talking about a lot of seniors that use taxi cab services out in the east part of the city, and if you had smaller companies, they would concentrate down in the high traffic areas, especially now with the new hotels going in, those type of things. So I'm afraid that if we don't have that variety and number of cabs, that all the cabs will get sucked down in downtown and leave those people out in Oceana and Ocean Hills and Peacock Hills and Costa Serena kind of hanging, for cab service, because all the cabs would be downtown. So that's the reason I think they have that availability of cabs. to do that, because what happens now, even if they sit downtown, they all line up at the train station. You have 7 cabs sitting at the train station, you're the 7th cab. Okay, you get a computerized dispatch to say, hey, somebody over in Costa Serena needs a ride. So you would, since you're the 7th cab, you know you're going to have to wait for maybe up to an hour to get a fare that you can leave and go out to Costa Serena, take care of that particular person, and come back and do that same thing. So I think that's 10 cabs allow you to do that. Computerized dispatching allows you to do that. So I think that's more to the service of the residents than it is anything else. So I'm going to defer back to the mayor, because he made the motion, because I need real clarification on what the motion really is. So at that point in time, I don't know if Councilmember Feller is going to speak, but before we vote on it, I'm going to need some real clarification of where we're at on this.
And when I made that original motion and seconded it, I said I'd like to have input from staff and the rest of the council, because I mentioned 3 or 4 things. 1519 was something that I wanted to make sure covered everybody. I also believe that the 10 cab with the ADK was important for the same reasons we just talked about. The other one was alternative fuel. I said I wasn't really concerned, but I wanted it looked at for the future. And God, was one more thing, help me. Driver's application, because we're seeing more of them doing in this franchise system that they're drivers for another company, they're renting or leasing the car. I wanted to make sure they're appropriately licensed. I'm sure there's guidelines to get that done, but I wanted to make sure it was done. Those are my concerns and wanted everybody's input, and we seem to get a lot of that tonight. I don't think we're going to hurt small market, but I realize what you said is if I don't do some of these things, I'll have 23 different cabs parked at the train station, no one out east.
Right.
That's what my concern was, and that's all. I do have 2 lights still on, if you want to hear from those. And we can, I told you earlier that I'm willing to modify my motion too, but wanted to get input. I just think there's things that the city wants to protect their citizens. This is a town that has a lot of seniors, a lot of military, a lot of ADA compliant, and people that need transportation, that need those type of special needs. And the yellow cab has those, and I think they did it on their own because they wanted to. I'm sure there's money in it too, but that's why I figured 10 or more cabs, you're going to have some money in the business to pick up the other costs. With that, I would like to go forward, if I may, to Deputy Mayor Feller. Sorry, your turn. This went by real quick, I noticed.
Quick items. I would not think that having a drop every year, it's not like our parking pass every year on June 30th. It has to be renewed. I think it should be just like any other business that comes to town. They decide when that business is going to start, and then they get licensed for that. I'm definitely opposed to requiring alternative fuel. I would think that would be up to them, and I'm pretty sure we've already heard that they are interested in making it easier for their drivers to operate. But that's something that they should work out for themselves. I think we just need to drill more oil wells, actually, and then we wouldn't have to have alternative fuels. But I do have a question. How many currently? We have 2 licensed cab companies.
Honorable Mayor, Deputy Mayor Feller, you have 2 current franchise holders. Yellow Cab of North County is authorized for 65. I believe they have 47 registered to operate at this time. You also have 24/7, which has allowed 30 vehicles and currently operates 17.
Okay. And I do have a question for Mr. Palmieri, if he's got any breath left. What do you anticipate the next iteration of vehicles with the way? I mean, I hear you talking about Priuses, and I don't know much about Priuses except the mayor drives one. So, well, I don't know. It looks like one.
Honda Insight.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Well,
they look alike.
Whatever. It looks like a Prius. And anyway, what's the next iteration since Crown Vics are being edged down?
I'm going to be converting slowly up here. Matter of fact, I just told Mike Casey, my partner, that I'd like to get 2 Prius and put them up here. They're wonderful taxi cabs. I mean, my wife, we travel a lot, and we were in Vancouver, and my 1 bag, and she has 3 bags. And I said, this is not, and next cab in line with the Prius said, this is not going to work. And they opened up the thing, and they got every single bag in the back. And it's a wonderful ride. I mean, the only thing we have to worry about is what I call a front-end collision. It's easier to total this car than it is to work with a Ford Crown Victoria. However, the drivers love them. They absolutely love them. So that's why I made the commitment to Councilwoman Sanchez, and I'll put him in without it being in an ordinance.
Well, exactly. I mean,
my word is my bond, and I will do that.
All right.
But I also want to mention, because there is a little bit of confusion here, that when I say the drivers are subsidized, they're subsidized from my wallet on the ADA. I'm subsidizing them to do that. And if it's not a requirement, which I think hopefully it's going to be, then I have no reason to do that in this particular city. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with the mayor how he put it, that all the cabs will be parked, if they're single guys, they'll be all parked downtown. And when you have a co-op or whatever you want to call it, a franchise like this, they currently just send the nearest cab to all the people that are out in the more remote areas, and you don't see cabs hanging around the Marriotts out there or the Veterans Center. They're down here most of the time, just hanging around. So I don't think it benefits. A hungry cab driver is probably going to be in that cab 12 to 16 hours in trying to get everything he can. But you just can't have them sitting in one place and ignore the more remote areas. And I agree with Councilmember Feline. The non-licensed should be banned. I mean, in other industries they call them scabs, or I just don't believe they belong competing with people that are actually required to have all these regulations that we've already put on them with the CAD and the radio dispatch. I'd kind of like it to be the free reign, but I don't think it will. So really I'm down to one issue, because Mr. Sherwood already said that every driver will be licensed by the business license. And I agree that we could administratively do 1519. And so the only issue for me is the 10 cabs and 1 ADA compliant. That's what I would be supporting.
Councilwoman Sanchez, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'm going to go ahead and withdraw the application during the month of January. It sounded to me like it would actually be helpful to staff and to lower the costs by having the notice and making sure this is the time that you apply. But it sounds like there is no support for that, and staff's not asking for it either. The 10 cab minimum with 1 ADA compliant, it sounds like everyone wants to do that, and I still support that. The individual business licenses, am I hearing right that that is already included in our ordinance? Yeah, okay. I want to make sure that we keep the computerized dispatch. I know we heard an argument for using something other than that. We really need to ensure that the cabs that are operating in Oceanside are able to send the closest cab to the customer so that they are waiting the least amount of time. So that's already in there, but I just wanted to state that I definitely want to keep that in there. So I think the only thing left is the alternative fuel. I do wish that we could keep that in, but it sounds like there is no support for that. So I'm going to withdraw that as well, Mayor, since it sounds like we don't have three votes for that.
And when you finish, I'm going to open it to the city manager who wanted to say a few things and maybe has some input because he went through this too.
But so, the bottom line for me is that we maintain a level of service for our residents. We have several seniors that no longer drive. And I wanted to also say that as someone who's a tourist and in other cities, when I'm a tourist in other cities, and then knowing that we want to increase tourism in Oceanside, we don't want to have a bad experience for someone. That bad experience will cause that person never to come back. And I'll be back to San Francisco, but I know how to get a cab now. And I certainly will think twice about where I get a room, thinking, okay, this is safe neighborhood. I can just call a cab. I'll have the hotel get the cab for me. These are learning experiences that you have. But these are the things that matter to me, and it sounds like we're down to the 10 cab minimum with one ADA compliant as the change, because the business license is already incorporated. Computerized dispatch is already incorporated. Thank you.
I'll have a city manager speak, but I would modify my motion also after hearing the input from everybody. Not everybody's on tune, but with that, I'd like to hear what the city manager has to say, please.
Mayor and council, my recommendation to you is, given the input we've received and direction from the attorney's office to modify the ordinance, my recommendation to you is you continue the hearing for 2 weeks. Give us a chance to change the language of the ordinance and bring back that final version.
Just prior to you, I know Jack wants
Will that require renoticing? No?
You could continue the matter to the next available council meeting to make the changes to reintroduce it. You could also adopt, if you would like, the resolution for the fees tonight. That would moot out that issue of having to renotice if you would like. You don't have to notice a public hearing for an introduction of an ordinance. So
you don't have to, if it's continued, that just means the public hearing part is still closed.
Correct.
But you don't have to renotice.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Before I move forward, thank you, sir. Councilmember, Deputy Mayor, please. I want to hear you. The light was on. Yeah, that's it. Then Councilmember Flynn, your light was on.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, after hearing the comments of my colleagues, and the thoughts they brought forward, and since I certainly have not come up with a workable alternative, and I certainly want to make sure that our disabled community is adequately serviced, and so, if this will form a consensus for us to move forward, I would support the 10 cab minimum and having one of them ADA wheelchair compliant, but I'll throw out one more bone there if there's any interest. It seems that maybe the approach should be that regardless of the number, that you have to have one cab that's ADA compliant, and then combined with the other barriers that we have in terms of the dispatch system, the age of the cars, the fact you have to be modified. Maybe that's a solution. But if the motion, the consensus is to have a 10 minimum, I could support that. I just don't quite like the idea of picking a number, but I certainly don't want that to be holding this up. And with that, yeah, I guess the other thing I'm more comfortable with is, you know, if someone dreams of becoming the yellow cab of tomorrow, as I understand the system we're having, you know, someone can come in with their 1 or 2 cabs, you know, come in under the umbrella of one of the companies, be an independent operator, and then, you know, if they ever get to the point they have their 10 cabs, they can begin to build their empire to compete with Yellow Cab or anywhere else. And so I think that addresses one of my concerns there that I have. So those are my thoughts. I think we have the making of a motion here that can get 5 votes as I'm seeing it.
Well, before I say anything, I got the city clerk's light on.
Sorry, just for clarification, as maker of the motion, you're now saying that we're continuing the whole hearing for 2 weeks?
I'm going to ask this. I think we're down to really one big issue, 10 cabs minimum with an 88. But with that, we don't want to hold up the process. I'd like the city attorney, city manager, if we continue this to the next council meeting, really to address anything for changing of the dialogue on the resolution or your report. Is it one meeting long enough?
If it's the will of the council, we could make the change to the ordinance before the next council meeting, bring it back, reintroduce it at that time. If you would like to move forward on the fees tonight, that resolution could be adopted, and then that's, you know, half of this item would be resolved.
I would make a motion that we vote tonight on the fees and have this continue to the next council meeting regarding the one change in the process. Input. Second. There's any input from anybody? Is that going to be convenient? And if so, this is going to vote on the fees tonight, please. Madam Clerk, this is the fees only. Please vote.
Councilmember Kern?
I'm just a little confused. What fees are we voting on? Because there was 2 things about that. Okay, but year 1, year 2, there was an application for the franchise holder wanting to come under year 2. Are we voting that everybody starts on year 1? It's a new application. Is that what we're voting on?
That's what I thought we would, unless there's some changes.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to be clear. Everybody we're starting over.
We want everybody to understand.
This is year 1 for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I was hoping that we would, since it would be a renewal, that it would be at 360. I'm not sure if that was a cost recovery amount.
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Sanchez, the year 1 was for, we're going to be processing Yellow Cab when their franchise, however, if their franchise expires when the new ordinance is put in place, they would be year 1, which means we would have to go out, even though we know already some of Yellow Cab, we have a relationship with them, the business license department knows them, we still have to go out, we're going to have to get all their driver's information, business license, that's what that applicant, we're going to get the application, route it through staff. That first year is the most intensive year, or the most labor amount.
So that is cost recovery. So everybody starts at year 1. Okay, I just want to make sure.
I want to make sure everybody understands. This is only through the fees. Please vote. I think we did.
Yeah. Motion approved, 5-0.
Before we finish now, can we have this back at the next council meeting to address this one change?
Recommend you do a motion to continue the item to the next council meeting. We'll make the change to the ordinance as you have directed.
For his motion, we'll make a motion to continue in the next council meeting. Second. Any discussion? None, please vote. This will expedite some things too. And first off, I thought I had a really good dialogue tonight, even though it was long and confusing. And staff, thank you for trying to help us, dragging us through this complicated. You know, we would have been finished an hour ago if you hadn't stood up.
Yeah, and I do want to publicly thank Yellow Cab for all their years of service to Oceanside. They made Oceanside one of their main cities, and we've had a very good relationship with Yellow Cab.
Thank you. We're moved from that one. We have other things. Madam Clerk, could we move to item 27?
And for the record, the motion was approved 5-0.
Yes, it was. Item 27.
Item 27 is adoption of an ordinance, which I believe the attorney's prepared to retitle.
He closed up our book.
Item 27 is the adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside extending the temporary fee deferral program for development impact fees.
Move adoption.
Second.
Public on this at all?
No, public.
Back to council. I see no question. Please vote. It's 5-0 before.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, item number 28, please.
I just read item actually 28 into the record, so it should be clear that what we just approved was the fee deferral.
Oh.
So this is the item now.
In that case, we have public.
I wanted to clarify, we may want to re-vote on that because I actually read 28 into the record. I apologize.
Okay, so somebody coming off vacation is kind of lost, right?
So what we're saying is
Well, it's actually about 6 in the morning for me right now.
He just came off of Paris tonight. Before we do it, you just read it. We want to vote on 28. Is there a motion?
We have.
I will.
Let's go back to 27.
Okay, let's start over.
Start over. 27.
Let's do 27. 27 is adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside, amending Chapter 13 of the Oceanside City Code by the amendment of Sections 13.1, 13.16, 13.18, 13.19, 13.25, 13.28, 13.29, and 13.33 to modify mandatory solid waste disposal requirements and update provisions to conform to existing practices and service provided under the current solid waste contract.
Move adoption.
Second.
Thank you. Questions? Public? No? Thank you. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you on your Paris time. Paris, France. Join us here in the United States. But anyhow, number 28.
Item 28 is the adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside extending the temporary fee deferral program for development impact fees.
Move approval.
We have a speaker on.
Oh, okay, well, all right.
Speaker?
Chris Wilson.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Chris Wilson, 770 Harbor Cliff Way. I just want to urge the council majority to reconsider their support of deferring these development impact fees. Impacts to the city begin as soon as construction starts on a project. Roads have to go in, infrastructure has to go in before these projects are built. We have, police and fire protection needs to be provided to the construction sites even while the sites are under construction. Deferring these impact fees to after the project is built and when it becomes occupied means that the taxpayers of the city that are currently paying into the system are footing the bill for these new developments. So I really want to encourage you to reconsider your approval of the continuation of this program. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, any others?
That's all the speakers.
Coming back to us.
Move approval.
Second.
One quick, I have Councilman Perline, you have the light on?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I would just like to say, obviously, we're going through rehashed ground here, but, once again, this is a small way the city can help the private sector in the middle of the Great Recession here, and I'm, shocked that this can't be a 5-0 vote. The city gets the money in the end. It may or may not make the difference between a project going forward and not going forward in a time when every one of us should be doing everything we can to create any job we can. This item is a small step forward, and I would actually urge my colleagues in the past who voted against this to create a 5-0 vote so we can send a message to the private sector that we're doing everything we can as the government sector to help us all work our way through the Great Recession. Thank you.
Mr. Perline, I think it was very much, I voted for different reasons. Mine is, I've had the BIA and everybody sit in my office and I told them, you're yelling at the wrong group. It's all about the banks making loans. It's not us. We've had 40 projects approved here by this council and nobody can get a dime from the banks. It's not us. It's them holding back everybody. So different reasons, but thank you very much. With that, please vote.
Motion approved, 3-2. Lyndon Sanchez, no.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, I know it's been a little confusing these, but let's move back to 17 through 21 if there's anybody.
Okay, council reports. Item 17, Mayor Wood.
None. Thank you.
Item 18, Deputy Mayor Feller.
Just a couple of things. We had 2 anniversaries so far this month, Amy and Matt and Harvey and Jessica, both celebrating with their 13 kids between them. We had one birthday at the beach, and that is really a great place to go. They just, 18, 20 kids running around on the beach and nobody worried about dropping grapes on the carpet or anything like that. It's just a great place. So it's the end of summer, and I hope everybody has had a great summer, and hopefully we can continue with a great new year.
Item 19, Councilmember Feline.
Thank you. Just a few items myself. Wanted to say attended the Rotary Club Crab Fest at the Mission, wonderful annual event they do, and they've wanted to restart a tradition they have of naming their Citizen of the Year, and amongst a lot of tough competition, wonderful contributors to our community, they named Tom Noonan as their Citizen of the Year, and an award well deserved, and I want to congratulate Tom for the award he received. Also wanted to let the citizens know that I followed up my police ride-along with the fire department, and I want to thank John Walkup for being my chaperone for the day and making sure I returned as safe as I arrived. And it was a wonderful opportunity to see firsthand the operations of the fire department. Fortunately for the citizens of Oceanside, during that shift, there wasn't a whole lot of activity, but that did provide some opportunity to learn and get some in-depth exposure to the systems fire department uses. And I think the more important thing is, even though we're occasionally squabbling over money, we need to make sure we also recognize, the wonderful work that's being done and the professionalism our fire department brings to the job every day. And I want to thank all the members of the fire department who took time to show me the jobs that they're doing. Also just attended the Main Street Oceanside meeting and the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce meeting, as I do on a regular basis, to get their input on where the city can do better. And thank you very much.
Item 20, Councilmember Kern.
Thank you, Holly. The only thing I'm really going to make an appeal for is come to the library book sale this weekend, because I'm designated one of the schleppers when it's all over with. So all those books that you do not buy, I have to box them up and lift them and carry them and stack them up. So the more people come out, the more books that they buy, the less I'll have to carry. So everybody come out Saturday. I'm sorry, what, Chris? Yeah, more money for the Friends of the Library. So thank you.
Item 21, Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you. I attended the opening day for soccer at Mansfield Buchanan Park. Oh my gosh, how many kids, Mayor?
1,500.
1,500 kids, and each one just being, parading with, with their signs. It was wonderful day. It was a beautiful day too. It was very, very hot, yeah. But some of them had a lot of team spirit. They had the blue hair and the green hair, and it was pretty cool. Lots of great parents, great coaches. It was a great day in Oceanside. Thank you.
Thank you. Holly, before we finish up, I'd like KOCT, if they can take the camera and zoom way back into the corner for the press box. And, the corner we're talking about. We'd like to introduce our new reporter from the UT. And she can wave her hand back and forth and show us she's the new reporter. Thank you. Welcome aboard. Thank you very much. And anyhow, other than that, long meeting, important, good dialogue. There she is on the camera now. Wave again. You're on TV. Thank you very much. Other than that, have a safe holiday summer. And it was been warm. Hopefully it'll cool down somewhat. Thank you very much. Again, be safe.